Hello, everyone. I am yours truly, Lupe, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to ENN 28 Exiles Network News. This is your favorite entertainment news podcast where a panel of film exiles dissect, discuss, and debate the week's sizzling, piping hot entertainment news topics in typical exiles fashion. So that means there's going to be like no filter, no restraint, no biases, just the unbridled truth. We're here as your faithful companions to entertain you through this time of social distancing. So we hope you guys are doing okay, you're staying safe, and we hope that, everything is cool. Today, I am joined by my brothers in arms, my homies, my co-pilots on this journey into the cinematic wasteland, fellow film exiles, Christian and Paul. Hey, Christian, how are you doing?
What's going on, man? I hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy. I hope your families are all healthy. That's really what's more important, throughout this entire thing. And hey, from a selfish standpoint, I hope the three of us are helping everybody out there get through all this with some cool, things to talk about.
True, true. And hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Hey guys, no complaints. Luckily enough, we've stayed safe. My family stayed safe. My friends have stayed safe. My wife and I are still busy working. My daughter's doing well. And to be honest, I'm enjoying the slower pace of life. We're saving money. We're learning to cook again. We're spending more time with the family, getting a little fresh air now that the weather's warming up a little bit here. And can't complain. There's some positives to be taken from all this.
Yeah, silver linings, silver linings. Okay, so this is ENN 28. We're racking them up. Next thing, time is going to pass and it's going to be ENN 1000. I can't wait for that day. So we're marching forward, onward soldiers, deeper into the wastelands. Forward ever, backward never. So here's our rundown for this week. We're going to start with a little roundtable discussion of what we've been watching and doing and our recommendations or warnings. Then we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 84, a little bit of an update. Pat Jenkins has some comments. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Christopher Nolan's, new epic thriller Tenet and what's going on with that. The release date is coming up pretty soon. We're going to have some Star Wars updates. Taika Waititi has officially been announced as director. Also, there's a female-centric Star Wars movie that's in the works. Then we're going to talk about all the drama with The Last of Us 2. It's had such a torrid trek to the finish line, and we're going to talk about the controversy and drama it's been going through. And we'll finish up with some talk about Pirates of the Caribbean from Disney Plus. We're going to talk about a Hercules reboot as well, and National Treasure as well. Okay, so let's do that rundown for the cardio. Guys, what have you been up to? What have you been entertaining yourself with, whether it's films or streaming? Let's start with Paul. What's up?
All right. Well, as I said, my wife and I are still lucky enough to be working, so I haven't had a ton of free time, more than usual. But I guess on the plus side, we're not commuting, we're not running my daughter around to classes and things like that. So we do have a little bit of extra time. And so for my wife and I, we've been watching Ozark. That was one that, we'd avoided. We just, never had a real strong incentive to watch. And we finally started watching that. We just finished season 1. We're on to season 2. And I got to say that's a great show. It reminds me of my feelings towards Breaking Bad, in that the subject matter just never interested me, no matter how many times people told me to watch it. And when I finally gave it a chance, I loved it. Same thing with this one. I've had this one recommended to me a number of times. Finally decided, let's just give this a try. And it's a great show. It's really good. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for a series and haven't seen Ozark. That's what's been keeping my wife and I busy. Aside from that, in order to try and keep my daughter entertained, we've been doing some themed movie days. And we started this a while back, actually. Our first one we did with because long story, I'll try and condense this. We always go to Florida in the summer. We do our annual Disney trip, and it's looking unlikely that we're going to get to go. And my daughter was pretty disappointed that the writing's kind of on the wall that we're going to have to cancel it. So what we've been doing is instead we've been kind of doing Disney at home days, and so what we'll do is we'll pick a Disney movie, and then pick a theme that goes with it. So, for example, we watch Coco, and then we pick some recipes we liked, or mock recipes from restaurants at the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot, and we'll listen to we'll listen to mariachi music and cook our recipes, and maybe do like they've got live walkthrough tours on YouTube, so you can put on like the walkthrough of tourist locations on YouTube while you're cooking, and then when we're done, we'll go watch we watch Coco right down in the theater. So that was one day. We did the same thing with Paris and Ratatouille, and then we've done a couple others since. I'm trying to think what we did Aladdin, and we did a Morocco theme, so we did sort of based it on the Morocco Pavilion. I'm sure there's something else we've done in there too. And then most recently we did a Shrek marathon. So we watched all 4 Shrek movies and picked recipes from Shrek. We reproduced dishes from the movie. So we made parfaits for breakfast and had waffles for dinner and that kind of stuff. So, and my daughter decorates the place. She she goes online and she prints out signs for Far Far Away or the Poison Apple Pub or things like that. And the other one we did was my daughter has always wanted to go to the VIP movie theater here. So it's 18 plus. They have a bar. They bring they bring your food to your seats. They serve alcohol. So of course she can't do that. So she's been envious for a couple of years now. So my wife did a VIP night at home for us. So we actually made menus, and we made her mocktails, and we had our own drinks, and we cooked things that are on the menu at the theater, and we ended up watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So we've been doing a lot of family days like that. So not necessarily new content, but trying to take existing stuff that we really enjoy and make it a fun family event. And so that's been a lot of fun. And then, as I say, other than that, Ozark. We watched, as you guys know, I watched Mortal Kombat on one of the few nights when I'm able to stay awake after everyone falls asleep. Watched Mortal Kombat. I'm looking forward to watching Justice League Dark. Haven't gotten to it yet, and I know we talked about this one a while back, but I hear no one talking about it. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch Guns Akimbo. I want to talk to someone about this movie. I loved it. I feel like I'm the only one that's seen it. One of my friends listened to my recommendation.
One of my friends has also seen it, and he did recommend it. He said it was cool, and he said you check it out. It just hasn't appealed to me, but I'll put it on the list and I'll try to get through it.
I loved it. You know what? It was a breath of fresh air for me. I mean, it's ultra violent. It's not for everyone. If I had to classify it, I'd say it's a comedy, like a dark satirical comedy. And I really enjoyed The Hunt as well. Those have been the two that stick out in my mind that I've watched during the quarantine that I've enjoyed the most. So go watch it. I want to hear someone else's opinion on this, and I'm anxious to talk to somebody about this movie because I really enjoyed it. So looking forward to hearing anyone, if you've watched it, reach out. Let me know what you think. Please, somebody talk to me.
That's cool. I really loved hearing the family activities. It's very creative. Really love how you're incorporating your daughter and your love for film and entertainment, and those are some of like the best memories I have, like as a child, like watching films that my father loved, and it being something that we could talk about. And I feel like sometimes parents get to experience the joy of seeing those films for the first time, or at least with the eyes of children, from experiencing them with their young ones. So I'm very happy to hear that you guys are having these fun family activities during this time. Christian, what about you? What have you been up to? Anything that you can recommend to us and let us in on?
Well, like Paul, I've been lucky enough, even though we've had serious cutbacks at work, I am still working remotely, and some days have been stupid busy as we try to help our members and especially our construction guys navigate this pandemic, and they need to keep construction sites clean, and they need to make sure that as they're building roads, whatever it may be, they're working on infrastructure. These guys need PPE as much as they can, and they got to keep their faces covered and social distance, and there's all kinds of crazy things. So we're trying to help these guys navigate through all of that and get best practices together for the industry. So that's fascinating, to be honest with you. But after a while, you're like, it gets a little tiring, and I worry about these guys out there. I mean, they're out and about. They're essential workers, so they have not had the opportunity. They can't stay home. Good news is they're not laid off, but they can't work from home either. So it's a little tough. But I won't go into a ton of details with this. You guys already know that, I suffer from depression and suicidal thoughts. So this pandemic on a personal level has been very hard. The last couple of weeks to a month, I think I've turned inward, and I've kind of withdrawn a lot. I've withdrawn a lot from social media, things like that. So I'm trying to open myself up a little bit. I'm an amateur musician. So I had some guys start over the last week. We've been recording at night over WhatsApp and a couple other things, and we've been doing that. Yeah, so I've recorded a couple guitar tracks. I did 2 vocal tracks. I did one just last night, and I'm going to do it again this weekend. I haven't played guitar in about 4 weeks, so it was really important for me to start playing guitar again. And it felt really good to get back into that, and it was a lot of fun. So I hope I got to learn a couple more songs, and it's also inspired me to check out a couple of music movies, which I do have to take a look at. There was that movie about the Beatles recently that I didn't watch yet. Was it yesterday? I can't remember the name of it, but it's in my queue.
Something like yesterday. Yeah.
So I want to watch that. And then there were the 2, of course, the big movies about Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, and then the movie with Taron Egerton. I thought both of those I loved them. So yeah, it was good. I finally caught up with them, and I was really happy I did. So, so I'm doing stuff. Also, before I say anything new, our sister podcast, the Exiles Network, has pulled me into a couple of movies recently to record with, and it's been cool to rewatch some of these movies with my wife, because I got to rewatch them before we do a pod. So we recently did Man of Steel. We did Titanic. It was just so cool to jump back into a couple movies that I haven't seen in a while. And that's a nice way. Like, Paul was talking about, enjoying movies with his family again. Like Joanna would be like, hey, I haven't seen that in a while either, so let's watch it together. And it was just, it's nice to do that together. So as far as for anything new, I don't know if you guys are into this, but I would recommend it for anybody out there listening to us as well. I've recently started watching on Hulu. It's a miniseries called Mrs. America. And you guys know me. I love history. I'm all into the 60s, the 70s. I love political history. And this stars Cate Blanchett and Rose Byrne, James Marsden, Elizabeth Banks. It's got a great cast, and it's all about the effort to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, and especially the backlash that Phyllis Schlafly, who was a very, very controversial conservative figure in American politics for a long time. She passed away in 2016 at the ripe old age of 92. And she was extremely close-minded. However, she was very passionate about her beliefs, and she fought for conservative causes, whether you agreed with her or not. I think you had to applaud her because she always stuck to her guns. And of course, while this is a show that takes some artistic license, it has made me, after every episode, go out and start Googling the history a lot more. And it is a fascinating time in our history. So if you guys are into that stuff, I can't recommend enough checking out Mrs. America. I really have been very impressed with that show. And I'll end with this, Lupe. You will be proud. Next up in my queue, and this is because of you, is Black Sails.
Hey!
Yeah, you know what? That one got bumped up my list because of Lupe too. So
Yep.
I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Man. Oh, and as a Star Wars fan,
I was going to say,
Clone fucking Wars Season 7. Holy shit. Oh,
the last 4 episodes were great.
God, the last 4 episodes were good. The first 4 episodes were okay. The middle we could ignore. The last 4, oh my God, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, you have to watch the last 4 episodes. That is what Star Wars is all about. That's what we all hoped Star Wars would be from the time of the original trilogy. Those 4 episodes were fantastic, so I can't recommend them enough either.
Cool. Wow. You guys have been putting in work. I got to ask you, Man of Steel, as someone who's been more in line with the Marvel Cinematic ever since this sort of golden age, your rewatch of Man of Steel, like Paul and I, we've watched Man of Steel like 100 times, but how did you find your rewatch of Man of Steel? When was the last time you watched it before this?
It's probably been pushing 2 years since I've seen it. Not quite 2 years, but it's been pushing 2 years. I do have the movie on Blu-ray. Superman is my wife's favorite comic book character. So that anything Superman must have a space in our house. It just has to have a space in our house. And I enjoyed it when I first saw it. I enjoyed it again. First of all, Hans Zimmer is a beast. He is a beast. His score is touching.
Godly.
Oh, it's godly. It's touching. It's emotional. It brings you up when it's supposed to bring you up. It makes you sad when it's supposed to make you sad. We said this, I think, on a pod 15 episodes ago. I always felt that Man of Steel was a Superman for our post 9/11 paranoid culture, and really asked us how where Superman would fit. Would he even feel comfortable in our society today? And I really, to me, I said it in the pod, and I don't think it's released yet at this time when we record this, but I always see in that movie, I see Superman as Clark. I don't even call him Superman, and he's not Kal-El, because Kal-El is a man from a dying world, a dead world, it's already gone. Superman is the symbol that wears the S, that's all, and has a cape. But Clark is who he is as a man. That's who he chooses to be, the man that could potentially change the world with his actions. And that to me has always been the beauty of Man of Steel. Now on my fifth, sixth rewatch, whatever it is, I enjoyed it probably as much as I did the first time. And I've always appreciated Man of Steel. It's a different movie than the Marvel universe. And guess what, man? You and I have said this before. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful movie. There's a couple things I dislike. I still am not a huge fan of General Zod, and there's a couple other, but the story of Clark himself, to me, is just such a beautiful journey from beginning to end, and him becoming that Superman character. And I'll end here on saying that last scene where it's between him and Lois, right? And she says, "Welcome to the planet," and he smiles.
That's one of the best endings ever.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It just, you with that, you see, like, if we had seen more of Superman and this version of Superman in years forward after this, it would have been a different Superman than we would have been used to before. And I think it was probably the one that maybe we needed for a little while there. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful movie.
Yeah. Couldn't agree any more. So for me, I haven't been working, so I've had a lot more time. Although I've been trying to keep busy with other things and just have structure in my day and pick up like more writing, making sure that I'm exercising and stay mentally healthy and fit. But I've been watching a lot of TV series that I didn't have time previously to watch. So I watched Devs, which so Devs it's a sci-fi series by Alex Garland. It ran for 8 episodes on FX, so it's now on Hulu. And it was episodic, it was weekly. But what I do these days is I don't watch anything episodically. I can't do it anymore. I wait until it's over and then I binge it. So I waited until the last episode and I binged it. And guys, I have a review out on it, so I don't need to speak more about it, but it immediately became one of my top 5 series that I've ever seen. Like, it's that good.
Nice.
It's mind blowing. We all know Alex Garland from obviously Ex Machina, which everyone who sees it knows about it. Say it's a masterpiece. He was the ghost director for Dread, the Dread movie that a lot of people had no idea that they brought him in to work on it because they were having problems. And then also he did Annihilation, which is hit or miss for people. It's like a cult classic. Some people absolutely love it. Some people don't. I actually don't really love Annihilation, to be sincere. But this one,
no, Dread I like. I like Dread.
Dread I loved. Annihilation I was a little underwhelmed by.
Yeah. Annihilation, I just didn't get it. It just didn't speak to me. Ex Machina is fantastic. So this one is I have a review. So if you want to know my thoughts about it, why I think it's one of the 5 best series ever made, go watch it. Then I watched Westworld, and oh boy, I'm just got a review for Westworld as well, so you guys can hear my thoughts. But this is what I'll say: Westworld used to be one of my top 10 series of all time. It was really good because what you basically had was you had what Christopher Nolan does in terms of mind-bending sci-fi, intellectual big brain sci-fi. Basically, it was a TV show doing that. Period. That's exactly what it is. Because obviously it's created and written by his brother, Jonathan Nolan, and his wife. And obviously Chris Nolan works with Jonathan Nolan. So it's they have the same sensibilities, the same taste, the same, language. And so imagine if Christopher Nolan made a TV series. That's what Westworld was. So saying was one of the best ever is not hyperbole. It's like it's valid. Obviously it's not for everyone, because not everyone likes, complex, sometimes hard to follow sci-fi. But then what has happened in season 3 is that, so season 1 and season 2 were that way. If you love it, you absolutely love it. But it got some backlash because the bigger things become, the more money is put into them, the more expectations, the more they're expected to have mass appeal. And if you're bringing an auteur, very personal voice to it, then you get all the stuff that we're always dealing with, and we always talk about with these films and with these properties. So they changed season 3, and season 3 turned into a Terminator movie. Like, it went from something intellectual to like all out action, ninja robots, explosions. Like, I swear, I was watching and I was like, what the hell is going on? It's actually like pretty darn good. It's probably like the best Terminator movie ever made, but it's such a hard left.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not as good as what it was. And the sad thing about it is that the people who were saying that it was like too complex and too full of itself and too pretentious and this and that don't like what it's become.
Right.
So that's what happens with a lot of these properties, and it's really sad. You have a situation where you have something that appeals to a core group of people. It's a hate it or love it type of thing. Then the people behind it, the producers, the studio execs, push the creators and force them and twist their arms into making it have more mass appeal. So they take a hard left and make it into something more mass marketable. And then the people who were saying they didn't like what it was before end up not liking what it is. We know that story fits into so many different franchises. But
that's true.
Now I'm watching an upload. I watched a season of Archer, and now I'm watching Upload. And I just
Archer's funny.
Yeah, Archer is killer. It's so I've been watching it like a bunch of really brainy sci-fi. So I was like, you know what? Time to watch something dumb and stupid. So I was like, I'll just watch an entire season of Archer. And anyone who's seen Archer, it's some of the dumbest. It's hilarious, just outlandish.
Yeah.
Like it's just Archer is just something else. So that was very easy to watch and just a breeze to go through. Yeah, and then I just started Upload today. I'm still on episode 1. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's another sci-fi property. This one's a little bit more lighthearted. It's set in a future world where in the afterlife they can upload your consciousness to a virtual world. So it's basically like heaven. So you can live in that virtual world. Your consciousness lives in that virtual world forever. At least that's the proposition. If we can have a philosophical debate of whether the human soul can be written in code in a program, or if that essence is something. So I guess those are some of the things that's going to make you think about if it's going to go deeper, but it's more of a comedy. So I'm not sure how deep and how serious they're going to get with it. What made Devs so special is that they were really serious with it, and they were explaining it with like quantum physics theories. I was like looking like, what is going on? Like Devs really went in. So anyway, I've talked for quite a while. That's what I've been doing. So in the next couple of days, also just in my personal life, I'm gonna try to get into more fitness things. I haven't been running. I've been doing a lot of like home workouts in terms of like body workouts and that sort of thing. So I'm going to start actually. Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm going to start actually running because I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I just need to. But so that's what we've been up to, each and every one of us. And now let's get into our topics. So we've picked a couple of topics that interest us, and we're gonna lead the discussions on those. So I really want to talk about the Wonder Woman 84 update and Tenet. So let's start with Wonder Woman 84. An article on the film was published in TotalFilm, and Patty Jenkins had, some comments on it, and she had some information, some interesting information. So first off, we know the movie has been postponed to August 14. I think even with a pessimistic outlook, that is a safe date for the movie to launch. Even the most pessimistic outlooks, I think by that time theaters will definitely be open. I'm not 100% sure what consumer confidence would be like in terms of going out and risking health, but I mean, what are you going to do? You can't push it till forever. Like, they're just going to have to put it out there and cut their losses, so to speak. I don't think that any movies that come out this year are going to do as well as they could have. That's just going to be something we're all going to have to deal with. But I feel like blockbusters like these can also attract people into theaters, and the more people come into theaters, the more people who sat on the sidelines will be confident. Okay, all these people went to the theaters and there hasn't been an explosion of infections or whatever. All right, so when the next big movie comes out, I'll go, and then that'll build up until we get back to normal levels of consumer confidence. So what did Patty Jenkins have to say in particular? She said, one, that they've conjured up a spinoff for the Wonder Woman, kind of this little pocket world, and they're going to make an Amazon's movie. They already have like a story idea. She's written it with Jeff Johns. She says she doesn't want to direct it, but she definitely wants to produce it. So, I mean, my thoughts on that are that I think it's quite sad that Warner Brothers is green-lighting Amazon spin-off movies and Atlantis spin-off movies when we don't have a solid foundation for a Superman movie. All we're hearing are loose, unsubstantiated rumors, and we don't know if Henry Cavill is Superman. I mean, he's most likely not Superman, to be honest. That's actually, like, we know this, to be sincere. Apart from if there's a huge change of heart. We don't have that. We don't have a Green Lanterns movie. We're getting something that's going to be basically on TV, which is not in the same realm as the movies in the big theaters, on the biggest stage possible, with the event movies. So I just think it points to DC really not knowing what they're doing and just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks, and them not really knowing how to exploit this IP and this franchise to its maximum potential, because it seems like they're following critical appraisal and they're following box office instead of following what the history of the comics are and how beautiful and that tapestry can be when you build this, cohesive, wonderful, incredible universe with all the stories that interweave and these characters in this universe. So to me, it's very strange. It's one of those things that just puzzles me, and to me, it points to the incompetence that they have shown. Also, she talked, the one that got some headlines was that she talked about the modus operandi and the status quo of what DC movies should be like versus Marvel. And this is her exact quote. She said, "I love that, to me, that's what superheroes always were. I think the exception to that was that Marvel was very successful in making a shared universe. But that certainly shouldn't be the status quo. I think you should look at the comics. There's a wide variety of comics, and their appearance, tone, and world are radically different, and they don't always inevitably come together. Sometimes they do, and that's a lot of fun, and that's it. But many times they have their own tour. I'm excited about DC, and frankly, Marvel is doing it a little bit more now too, with some of the tone of Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow and Doctor Strange. They feel very different in tone, But I love that DC thing. I've always thought that's a wonderful thing. They were all very different. And my comments on this are that I think because she didn't grow up reading comic books, she doesn't really know what she's talking about. Some of what she's saying is true, but there's double speak and she's stumbling over herself. And to me, Patty Jenkins, a lot of times when she talks, she sounds like a politician. She's like really good at marketing and selling things and painting things and like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is the reason why it's wonderful. And I'm just not buying it. As a comic book reader and someone who grew up, reading and loving these things and growing up with this and just hoping that in cinema, these properties can grow along with me. It's very, very disappointing for anyone to say that DC should not have a shared cinematic universe. And her point about the comics is just, it's so misguided, and it's emblematic of someone who doesn't read comics, because we all know the comics that we bought, they were all in the same universe, and a lot of times they led towards Justice League events. That's what makes DC and Marvel. Yes, there are standalone graphic novels in their own pocket universe and their own Elseworld tales, but there was always the cohesive universe. That's a staple of comics. So to make that comparison, it's a false comparison. It's false information. And she also alluded to Marvel's shared universe as an exception. It isn't an exception. It's the way that things should be. And Marvel does not have a monopoly on a shared universe. Star Wars has a shared universe. Harry Potter has a shared. There are a lot of properties. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons. There are a lot of properties that have shared universes. Lord of the Rings has a shared universe. Marvel is not. Yeah. No, Marvel is not the sole proprietor of everything that a shared universe is. They got the idea to do it from the way comic books work. And if DC doesn't do it, they're not doing what the comics do. That's just it. It's just that simple. If you're talking about how they should be different, you could talk about it in individual style and house style. And as far as I'm concerned, me personally, I don't see a huge difference between Thor Ragnarok, Black Widow, and Doctor Strange. There are differences because there are differences in all of them. Iron Man is not the exact same movie as Avengers, and Avengers is not the exact same movie as Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel is the exact same movie as Captain America, the First Avenger. But there is a cohesive style. When you see a Marvel movie, you know it's a Marvel movie. They may push the envelope a little bit more towards maybe the comedic side. One might be a little bit more serious, but they're all going along the same track of a house style. So I just think, like, I have so many problems with her comments. And just to wrap up, I think that I'm really, really upset and depressed and disappointed in the state of DC, because you have people who have a lot of influence and a lot of say, and they don't really know what they're talking about, and they don't have a love and appreciation for DC as a whole. They may have it for their little pocket of the little thing they're doing, but in my opinion, they don't have a love for the whole. I'm a Superman fan, but I want to see Green Lantern on the biggest stage with Superman as well. I want to see the Justice League. I want to see Wonder Woman and Cyborg, and I want to see the Justice League dark characters. Like, if you love DC, you love all of them. It's just you're not just focused on your love for just one particular character. But anyway, I'm rambling. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. Tell me if I'm crazy, if I'm going too far. If you agree with me, that's fine. If you don't, but I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. So, Christian, starts off. What do you think?
Yeah, you talked about a lot there. There was a lot of good stuff, and I think there was a lot of good stuff in there. Look, hey, as an MCU fan, even though I do personally see the differences between a lot of the movies in the MCU, the reality is they do have a style. And they have a similar style, and they exist in the same universe, whatever you want to call it, the 616 universe. And so it makes sense that they would feel similar, and they probably should push the envelope a little more than they do, but they don't. But they have a style that works. They have a business plan that works. All that. I'll start with this. I really like Wonder Woman 1. I do. That no man's land scene is probably one of the most beautiful moments in comic book movies ever. It's beautiful. Very few issues from what we've seen with Wonder Woman 84 so far, outside of them screaming at us over and over again that, hey, by the way, this is 80s. It's 80s. It's 80s. Outside of them doing that over and over again, I really don't have too much of an issue with what they're doing. Patty says she has an arc for Diana. That's cool. The Amazons movie is interesting. I know Jeff John's very divisive history within the DCEU, so I don't know for some of the fan base if that's welcome news or not, considering that he's, I guess, had some of the story treatment for that, pitched the story. But I think the biggest issue here goes back to what Lupe just said. They don't know how to use the IP that they have. When they've done kind of like little trilogies here and there, and I shouldn't even say little trilogies because the Nolan trilogy was a massive trilogy and it was fucking fantastic. They seem to do fine. But to try to do this connected universe with, you know, whatever, Green Lantern and trying to bring the Justice League together, that's when they fail. They're falling back on Batman yet again, and that's proving to be divisive. They have zero idea what to do with Superman. And like I said before, I feel that they had a course that they can follow. It's good to expand the universe. Marvel made us fall in love with a talking fucking tree. And most people like characters such as Black Panther and Scarlet Witch, and they are going to be front and center now moving into phase 4 and phase 5. That's fantastic. But guess what? They had a plan and they had a core to begin with. And DC, no. It's the scattershot, shotgun approach, and they have no idea where to go. And now that I've heard you talk and I've reread everything from Jenkins, it didn't seem like that at first glance, but now that I'm rereading the article when you were talking, it does seem like a little bit of doublespeak. Look, I like her a lot, but she's got a golden goose here, and there's really no reason for her to get away from it. And everything that we're seeing here just reinforces, once again, there's no plan, there's no direction, and they don't necessarily know how to run a cinematic universe. I'm an MCU fan telling you right now that not everything needs to be fucking Marvelized. It doesn't. And people and my fellow MCU stans have to stop screaming for that. They have to stop. Because if everything becomes one thing, it ceases to be special. It just all gets lumped into one big corporate glob, if that's the right word. But having at least a loosely connected universe makes sense. And then you could still have the standalones like Logan or Joker having their place in there as well. The DCEU should have differences than the MCU. Do their thing. Who cares? But give us some sort of direction. This loosely connected, but no, it's not connected garbage isn't working. And it does speak to what you said, Lupe. It feels like you're dealing with people that they weren't a fan of this material. You know, and maybe even Jeff Johns was a fan of the material, but look what he tried to do. You know, he went about it the wrong way. But Jenkins and some of the other people, you had Emmerich was the head of WE for a long time. They just don't. When you don't love the material, it shows. Bash Feige all you want, and people do. And guess what? If you want to do that, knock yourself out. Go ahead. I'm not going to have a fight with somebody who wants to bash him. I like what he's done. Other people don't. He loves the material. He loved the X-Men. He was involved with X-Men 1 with Donner and her company, Sheila Donner, and her company. The guy loves the material. When you have people at the top that love the material, it shows. It's showing that they have people here that don't love the material. So, I don't know. It makes me sad as a comic fan, man, because I'm like you. I want to see Superman interacting with Green Lantern, and I want to see the Green Lantern core, and I want to see some of the lesser-known characters as well. They should do that, but you got to have the core in place. You know, all the crap about Supergirl and everything, that makes no sense if you don't have Superman ready to go. Makes no sense. Yeah.
Like the thing about it is that obviously it's harsh to say that someone doesn't love a character. Like I know that Patty Jenkins loves Wonder Woman.
I'm
but
sure.
But you know what she loves? And she said it several times. So I'm not speaking for her. She said that it was the Linda Carter Wonder Woman. That was her thing. Yeah. You know, did not grow up reading comic books. Like Superman is not like everything to her. Green Lantern. If you ask her about John Constantine, she'll have no fucking idea.
She probably doesn't know.
If you ask her who Swamp Thing is, like, who the hell is her? Like, if you ask her like Young Justice and Nightwing and Damian Wayne and Dick Grayson, like who are those to her? So you need someone at the top who loves all of them, who loves the entire world. Because one thing about Feige is that he loves the entire world. So he can bring in people who love particular characters or people who just want to use the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a leg up for their career. And
Yeah.
because they're working within the construct that he has, implemented, it doesn't do any damage to the entirety of the universe. And that's what DC is lacking. And people were saying, oh, Jeff Johns was going to be that. But the problem with Jeff Johns was that Jeff Johns came in and he wasn't a producer. He's not someone who has been in Hollywood, who has any cachet, who has any say, who knows how to deal with personalities, deal with people. Like, being a producer is not just like an easy job. You can't just pick someone, And apparently they thought it was, and he kind of failed miserably at it. And what he was trying to do was he was trying to secure his job position and make sure that he was able to continue. And so he was just doing a lot of things to please critics and try to get the most fans rather than do actual world building. And that's where it fell.
You just nailed it right there. Before I don't want to cut off Paul, so I'll shut up here in a second. But that's probably the biggest thing: the courting of the bloggers and courting of the influencers and courting of. Do we even want to call some of these people reviewers? I don't even know if we want to call them that. But courting those people was the wrong idea. That was the wrong path to follow. And I'm telling you, this is a guy who loves what the MCU has done. Telling you it was the wrong idea. I didn't like everything that Snyder did. Of course not. I've lied to you. I don't even like everything that the MCU does. I don't like Captain Marvel. There's a couple other movies that I don't like. I'm not going to love everything. But there was this cohesive universe, this plan for where Superman was going to go, how to bring Green Lantern in, how to expand it, what kind of Batman Bruce Wayne was going to be. Maybe we'd have another Batman moving forward after that. Where was Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman going to go? This stuff was all in the works. And because they decided to listen to one group that was very vocal, I understand that, but they listened to one group, all of that exploded and they dropped a nuclear bomb on it and got rid of it. Wrong idea. In my opinion, they listened to the wrong people, but whatever,
That's spilled milk at this point. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it just proves that they've learned the wrong lessons. I mean, that's my takeaway from this. So for me, I don't want a loosely connected universe. I have no interest in that. I don't value varying tones and styles within the same universe. I just don't want it. You either have a connected universe with a consistent tone and a consistent, cohesive universe, or you keep it entirely separate. So I'm okay with the Joker. It's its own thing. I'm okay with Matt Reeves' Batman. It's its own thing. Build your universe the way you want within that universe. I'm not okay with goofy-ass Shazam fighting what's hopefully, or meshed with what's hopefully a serious, dark Black Adam. Like, it doesn't mesh. Or goofy-ass Shazam teaming up with Henry Cavill's Superman? Like, oh my God. Come on. And what are they doing with Wonder Woman? I mean, they're like you guys talked about. I mean, Patty Jenkins has an obvious appreciation for Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. You can see the influence. She's talked about her appreciation for Richard Donner's Superman 78. So that's what she appreciates, right? She's raved about Jeff Johns. She's been expressive about her love for Phil Jimenez, who is a big Snyder hater. So, you sort of see which side of the camp she leans on. And she's coming in on the bright colors, hope and optimism, 80s style filmmaking. And there's a market for that. But it's a different direction, for sure. And you start to see that these things can't mesh together. Now, obviously, they've thrown away what I loved about this universe. Snyder had the plan. He had the right tone. He had, you talked about the cohesiveness of the Lord of the Rings universe. Well, that's what we were getting with DC. We were getting a cohesive 5-film Superman-centric Justice League arc, and it was going to branch off. And from there, you can vary your style a little bit, but it has to exist within the same cohesive universe. And Aquaman was not that. I mean, people can try and spin it however they want. Aquaman did not exist in the same universe as Snyder's first two movies, Man of Steel and BVS. Shazam, I mean, yeah, they had some little references to Man or to BVS. But come on, did that feel like the same world? Not really, right?
No.
And Wonder Woman 84, we have yet to see what's going to come of that, but you can clearly see they're going for the nostalgia, they're going for the bright colors, they're going for the classic hope and optimism. And as much as I liked the first trailer, I mean, I didn't love everything about it, but it looks like a fun, entertaining movie that I can, hopefully take my wife and daughter to and enjoy. But it's still going to bother me because of what they threw away. And it's going to be a departure. I don't know how much of a departure. I don't know how much certain things are going to get under my skin. And I want to give
have a sword like
Pardon
that. Me, Wonder Woman doesn't have her sword.
Yeah,
well, so weird.
That is the weirdest thing to me.
You could make the argument that, she doesn't need her sword in downtown Washington, D.C. in 1984. I mean, you could make that argument. I'm not as hung up on that. It was more the commentary they went with it. They thought it was too aggressive. Like, again, it just speaks to the conviction with which they're throwing away everything Snyder built. And even this crappy quote she gave here with the, what was her exact words? There's a wide variety of comics, and their appearance, tone, and world are all radically different. Like, the consistency of the Marvel universe shouldn't be the status quo. Well, again, you read between the lines, she's just throwing away what Snyder was building. She's basically doubling down, saying we made the right decision, moving away from what they were trying to build. And to me, that's the wrong lesson. The lesson they should have learned is that you stick with your filmmakers and you stick to the plan and you don't listen to the talking heads and don't get derailed by a bunch of haters that didn't want your product in the first place. I mean, where did this universe go wrong? It went wrong when they butchered Justice League to try and give the haters a checklist of everything they asked for. They caved, they got scared, they panicked, they threw away everything that made the universe good, gave people a checklist of the garbage they asked for, and like you said, they dropped a bomb on their own universe, and now they got nowhere left to go but to pick up the pieces. And now they're making terrible decisions, trying to pick up the pieces of what they perceive as working. So Aquaman made big money. Wonder Woman was universally loved for the most part.
Sure.
And so they're saying, well, we're scared to touch any of this other stuff because we don't know what to do with it. So we're going to spin off Batman into something entirely different. We still don't know what to do with Superman. And in the meantime, we're going to do spin-offs nobody asked for about the Trench and the Amazons. And, God, I couldn't care less about an Amazon spin-off, especially one where Patty Jenkins is working with Jeff Johns and she's not even going to direct it herself. She's going to produce it and pass it off to someone else. I mean, at best, this is going to be a straight-to-streaming quality production. I can't imagine this is ever going to make the theater. And if it does, I'd imagine it's going to flop hard, right? Like, it's heartbreaking to see what they've done to this universe. Wonder Woman will continue to be successful. I don't know that the next Aquaman. It might be successful, but this screams to me one where people they just go see it because they remember having a good time at the last one, forgetting just how bad the dialogue was in the first one and how it really wasn't that great a movie. I mean, Aquaman got by on visual spectacle and the fact that it was it had exceptional timing, and when it went to the theater, it was a unique experience in that it's the first time we kind of saw that kind of an underwater world brought to screen, almost an Avatar-esque underwater world brought to life, right? And that puts butts in seats that aren't necessarily interested in the subject matter. Jason Momoa puts butts in seats that aren't necessarily interested in the subject matter. That's going to wear off. And if you have more of the same campy bullshit with number 2, the Aquaman series is going to die a fast death. So then what are you left with, right? And so honestly, I hate to say it, but I don't know. I think they just ought to blow up this whole universe and start over. Release the Snyder Cut, let us have our closure, and then blow the whole thing up. You want to keep Wonder Woman going? Keep Wonder Woman going. You want to make one more Aquaman movie? Fine, do it. But God, what a mess they've made, right? And
that's why I think, and I apologize for interrupting you.
No,
Hold your
go
thought. Ahead. Don't forget your last thought. That's why I still. It's all up in the air on what the hell they're doing with Flash, and we keep saying it's never going to get made. It's never going to. That's why I keep thinking they're kind of punting it. They're keeping it in their back pocket, saying, you know what, we want to reboot everything. Boom, there we go. We just rebooted everything. I still think they have that in their pocket.
And you know, I totally forgot about Suicide Squad, which, you know,
Oh,
again,
thus guys. Yeah,
what,
yeah.
what the hell is it? I mean, you had Suicide Squad, now you've got The Suicide Squad, and it's a sequel, kind of, but it's not a sequel, but it's got half the same characters. I mean, again, we talked about this before, but the only explanation I can have for this weird evasiveness about what you're labeling it, like, okay, let's say the Suicide Squad, you know, they replace half the team because that's what the Suicide Squad is. It's a Suicide Squad. A bunch of them die, and you're constantly replacing team members. But you've got your consistent leader in Amanda Waller and Rick Flag. Okay, so that's the sequel. So why is it not a sequel? What's going on? Is something happening in Wonder Woman 84 that's making this not really a sequel, but kind of a sequel?
About that too.
Well, that's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise, just say it's a sequel. Say it's a Suicide Squad. Team members change by nature. And it's essentially a sequel. But are they so embarrassed by the first Suicide Squad that they don't want to call it a sequel? Is that what they're afraid of? Or is it that something's happening in Wonder Woman 84? And then if Wonder Woman 84 is causing some reset in the present, and I'm not even sure how the mechanics of that would work, because we've already seen the present after Wonder Woman 84. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they could twist things around and come up with something, and the general audience will eat it up. But you know, if that's not the reset, is Flashpoint the reset? Is Flashpoint even going to happen? Is New Gods even going to happen? I saw Ava DuVernay put out something about she's on her fourth writing of a scene featuring some obscure character I've never heard of. And I got to tell you, I could care less about an Ava DuVernay New Gods movie. I mean, partly it's the bad taste in my mouth over what they've done with the existing universe, the way they blew it up and threw away, what I mean, this was the epitome of what I would want to see in a cinematic film universe. This was it. This was what I wanted, and they blew it up and threw it away to appease haters. And now I've got to watch the crap they're giving us and try to give it a fair chance. And I'll be honest, I'm not really interested. Like, I have to make an effort to keep an open mind. And the minute you have to make an effort to keep an open mind, it's going to be really hard to win you over. And that's where I am with things like with New Gods and whatever other crap they're bringing out, right? Like oh god, what was the James Gunn Suicide Squad and whatever other flavor of the week movies rumored out there. Supergirl that just got tossed aside because now they're rumored that Henry Cavill's going to come back. And I have no doubt that Black Adam, right? Black Adam could be good, but I have no faith. And I have no doubt that Danny Garcia would love to get Dwayne Johnson and Henry Cavill in a movie together. And that could be great, but do you have any faith that they're actually going to make it great? Or do you think they're going for the formula with the quips and the banter and the bright colors and the hope and the optimism? I mean, of course they are, right? They've learned nothing. So, and you know what? They're never going to make everyone happy. That's the thing they got to get comfortable with. Stop trying to make everyone happy. It's not going to happen. With a character like Superman, you're not going to make everyone happy. So just pick a story, pick a tone, go with it, and support your creatives. Back it up. Market it. Have the executives come out and say, we love this. We're proud of this movie. This is a great movie. Put a positive spin on it. Have your PR people do something. Like, don't just leave the filmmakers flailing and unsupported, getting attacked by narratives from these idiot talking heads. Like, it baffles me the way it was handled. And the ongoing involvement and praise of Jeff Johns tells you that this isn't entirely done.
Yeah. That to me is one of the things I've not been able to wrap my head around. And sometimes in life there are some hard truths that just stare you in the face, and a lot of times we look away. And I haven't confronted it, but in a minute I'm going to, and I think I'm going to be very upset, because if Patty Jenkins is still working with Jeff Johns after what happened with Justice League, there is something I don't like about that. There is something. Absolutely. There is, like, we all don't want to say it because
you could spin it, you could deny it, but the truth is screaming out to you.
there is a very uncomfortable, inconvenient truth there, and we're going to have to come to terms with it.
Well, how often do you see Patty go out of her way to praise Zack Snyder and his vision for the universe? And then how often do you see Patty go out of her way to praise Jeff Johns and praise Phil Jimenez? And, who is, I mean, he single-handedly has turned me off comics. I mean, he's, oh my God. I feel sick to my stomach going into a comic book store buying comics with people like Phil Jimenez and, and she loves him. She loves him. So, and she professes her love for him publicly. So, it just you don't want to believe it, but you have to start opening your eyes at some point.
You know what, too? You nailed on something before I go back to Lupe is you don't see a lot of that coming from Marvel, right?
You do
Like
not.
they
You
clamp
don't.
down on that shit real
Oh,
fast.
you
God,
don't.
go
In
ahead.
what other company can you go out and undermine people
I
working
know.
with the same product? Like, you'd be fired in a heartbeat if I went out and said something about someone that worked with one of our products
I know.
publicly.
Oh,
If
I'd
I
be done.
bashed them or
Oh,
our
I'd be done.
products, oh my
Yep,
Yeah.
God, you'd be done.
be
Yeah.
done.
And
Yeah.
rightfully so. You know?
Rightfully so. It's insane. Like one of the most hilarious things that happened was that, I mean, they went through the whole, and it was Jeff Johns thing of bringing in Joss Whedon to take over for Zack Snyder, and then less than a month after Justice League hit the theaters, Joss Whedon was on a red carpet with Marvel at a Marvel event talking about how the Marvel characters are better than DC characters. I'm like, what? Like, can you imagine that?
It's just ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
Can you
ridiculous.
imagine that? That's the type of executive and leader that Jeff Johns was. We all like it. Like talking
Well,
about
yeah,
this, it just is so bizarre.
he
It's one
was
of the most
sowing division.
sin.
Instead of creating unity and
And yep,
like a united face and supporting each other,
he was
he's
sowing
sowing
division
division
and
behind the
undermining
scenes.
creators and
Well,
undermining creators. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because we all know, whether you like it or not, there's a rivalry between DC and Marvel.
Yeah, of
Like
course. Yeah.
that like no matter what, it doesn't, like, you can try to paint rainbows in the sky and they're two competitors. It's business. And there was this whole notion of, oh, the better DC does, the better Marvel does. That's just talk, because Justice League completely bombed, and then the next DC movie was Black Panther, and it was one of the biggest things ever. And the truth is that the rhetoric has always been that the worse DC does, the better it makes Marvel look, because it's like, you guys can get your stuff together, and they're these guys who like have it going, so they must be the greatest thing ever. So for you to go and then take a director from a rival company, a director that stands for everything that critics have said that your director isn't. Basically, Joss Whedon's is like the anti Zack Snyder when it comes to comic book movies. And then you use him to usurp the director and completely hijack his vision. And oh my goodness, this is it's anyway. We've talked about that enough. Let's move on to some other stuff, because we can go on for hours about the debacle that is DC and what they're doing over there. But let's talk about one of my most anticipated movies, one of everybody's most, even if you don't watch movies and you have no idea what movies are, Tenet will be like one of your most anticipated movies of the year. And the release date is July 17th. But the studios and the exhibitors are coming up on a crucial date. So apparently, sometime next week, I don't think there's any specific date has been given, is going to be the the date, the point of no return, so to speak. They're either going to have to go full steam ahead and invest all the marketing dollars and the promotion and all that stuff, or they're going to have to postpone it and push forward. So from what I have been led to believe and glean from reading the tea leaves and everything the CDC has been saying and WHO, it seems like we can see theaters begin to open towards the end of June, either early June or towards the end of June. And Nolan, he's very passionate about the theatrical experience. Like, that's his whole career has been based around that type of movies he makes. He shoots with IMAX cameras to exhibit his films on IMAX screens. He shoots with film and wants people to see his movies in 70 mm and 35 mm film. He has a great relationship with the theater chains, and even when this whole pandemic started, he wrote a letter, championing the theatrical experience and how it's such a rich and vital part of our culture and our human experience. So I know that he wants to use Tenet as a tool to bring people into theaters, because this is a movie, I'm telling you, a lot of people on social media have been saying, I'll risk coronavirus for Tenet. And to be sincere, I'm actually one of them. If I'm not unintelligent and immature, I will look at the recommendations by experts, and if they say, it's safe to go out and we can ease social distancing, I'll be smart. I'll try to see the movie when nobody is in theater. Probably like go very early in the day when it's just going to be me, that kind of thing. But yeah, Nolan, he definitely wants to use this movie to bring people to theaters, because this is one of the biggest movies of the year. Probably the biggest, if I think about it. It's probably the biggest movie of the year, the one that has the most draw. And if a lot of people can go to theaters and come out, being okay, then confidence is gonna be reinstilled, and it'll be good for the industry as a whole. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that July 17th is too optimistic? Do you think they should just postpone it? What do you think the prospects are? And are you anticipating this movie? Whichever one of you wants to start, go ahead.
Well, Christian, go ahead.
I can. Yes, anticipating the movie. It's Christopher Nolan, abso-fucking-lutely. There's no question about me anticipating the movie. Because I'm a selfish American, looking at it from the United States perspective. COVID in the USA, I live right outside New York City, so we're the hardest hit area in the United States. The northeast of the country, which stretches from Boston all the way down to Washington, D.C., so we are the northeast corridor. We have, outside of pockets, we've successfully flattened the curve, and when it comes to Jersey and a couple other places, most people think we're pushing into suppression now, which is great. But we're still locked down till June. We're not going anywhere, at least for another month. And they're planning test and trace as we speak, which is probably the only real way that you can open up this part of the economy again and get us as close to normal as possible, because we are way too densely populated. We are smack up against one another in this area of the country. And that's why we're so well connected, and that's why we spread disease so fast. It's just how it is. I probably won't go into New York City for at least another year. I mean, it's just, that's the world we live in now. It's disgusting, but that's how it is. The Northeast is planning to do test and trace and open up and things like that regionally. We're going to coordinate that with the rest of my state, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Maryland, up to Massachusetts, DC. That's what we're doing. So we're going to do this into Pennsylvania. Now, the rest of the USA, the Midwest, the South, they're already opening up. The number of cases is still a little bit on the rise in those areas. So it'll be interesting to see if these are just old test cases coming through, or if the infection rate, the hospitalization rate, the ICU rate, the ventilator rate, is all that stuff going to start going up in the next 2 weeks? If that does, how the hell do you not postpone a movie like this? And how the hell do you feel comfortable opening theaters? Number two. Number three, do people like me feel comfortable going to a theater? Right now, no. And I don't care if Tenet's opening. I don't feel comfortable going to a restaurant. I don't feel comfortable going out. Now, maybe again, it's where I live. I live in a densely populated area of the country. So to me, maybe it's tough. Now, I go on walks. I go on bike rides. I went to the store. My wife and I went to the local shop up the street from us today. We had our masks on. We talked to people. We social distanced. We did what we were supposed to do. Cool. But do I want to sit in a theater for 3 hours? They're going to do what they have to do. I know they're going to force people to wear masks. They're going to half theater. The theaters are going to be half full. But if that's the case, can the movie make as much money as it's supposed? There's a lot of factors at play here, guys. There's a lot of factors at play. So this is an incredibly anticipated movie for me. Coming up in July, I think it's July 17th is the date, like you were saying, that they're thinking. I don't know if that date's going to hold. Me personally, in the United States, I cannot speak for the rest of the world. I think that might be premature, because I think we might get a second wave in the U.S. Maybe not in my area, but I think we're going to get a second wave in the rest of the country, in the Midwest, the Southeast, the Southwest. I think we're going to get a second wave there. And the second wave, even if it's not as bad as the first, and it may very well be, another round of lockdowns are probably going to have to come into place. Now, I pray to God that second wave does not happen. And I pray to God that this disease doesn't spread as far as they thought. But the science has been there. We've already spread it. I'm just calling it like it is. I'm very worried about it. I would rather stay locked down a little while longer, push it a little bit further, and then have your economic recovery be that much stronger. I think to me, and I'll shut up, Lupe, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I think
It's fine.
by September, I personally will feel much better to go out into crowds. I'm fine going to parks right now. I'm fine even going into the store. I'm cool with that because you're in and out in like 40 minutes. But, you know, inside packed areas for 2-3 hours at a clip, I got to think about that one. And I've talked to a lot of people in this area. They feel like me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be tough. This is a tough one, guys. I agree. I don't know if I have the right answer, and I'm no scientist. So I talked for a little bit there. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
You're fine. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm in a high risk category, so I'm not going to be rushing out. Now, if something were to change dramatically, then yeah, sure, maybe I'd consider it. But I don't see what's going to change dramatically. I mean, it's everything we've heard is, you know, says it's going to take several months, if not longer, to come up with some kind of effective treatment. You know, get it tested and get it mass produced. Vaccinations, you know, we're still down the road a ways. So as we go into this phased reopening, I mean, I'm failing to understand what's going to stop the numbers from spiking again. And if that's the case, you're going to be less safe potentially, you know, when that happens than you are now, with everyone on lockdown. So why would I rush out and risk myself, you know, to go see that film? Now, I mean, and I love Nolan's films, but I can wait. It's not for me something where I just absolutely cannot wait to see it. I'm not going to risk my life, right? Or put my family at risk. So if I think there's a lot of people that are going to be in that same boat. Like for me, it's going to take me a while of seeing life come back to normal before I start following suit, right? Just because I am sort of in a high risk category. So I mean, it's not going to be July. Just doesn't seem feasible to me personally. So I think they should probably. I think there's enough people in that situation that it's going to impact their box office. They should probably delay it or consider some kind of simultaneous release of it on premium video on demand. If not on same day, maybe within a week or two. Right, put it in theaters for a week or two, and then make it available.
No one will ever do that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Even with a short delay.
You know, he's so partial to the theatrical experience.
I hear that. Yeah,
he's dogmatic about it.
Right.
He's like, no one is like him when it comes to the theatrical experience. Honestly.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't know what the budget for this film is, but I'm assuming that they're not.
Yeah, it's over
right.
two.
And they're not going to open. They're not going to put this in packed theaters, right? Like you're not going to be packed. Even if theaters are open July 17th, you're not going to be packing theaters. You're going to be selling every third seat, presumably, right? Like it's not like this is just miraculously going to go away. You're not going
to take a hit. Like it's going to take a hit.
Yeah, like you're going to have theaters that are a third full or half full at most. I would presume, right? I mean, I don't know what their exact plan is, but if you look at these phased reopenings they're talking about for theme parks and restaurants, they're typically starting at 50% capacity and then working their way up from there, right? Or some percentage, right? So, I mean, it's not going to be financially viable unless they're expecting this film to have just like unheard of legs because it takes people so long to get out and see it, which, you know, maybe they will leave in theaters a long time because it's not going to have much competition. But I really struggle to see how this one is not going to get delayed, right? But you know what? Hey, we'll see where we're at when the time comes.
You know, I really like the amount of restraint and calm that you guys are preaching. Like you guys are speaking the truth. The number one most important thing is our health and our safety.
Yeah.
The health and the safety of those around us, the ones we love, and even the health and safety of strangers, because you could pass it on to people that you don't even know, and it's our responsibility as good citizens and good fellow countrymen and good fellow citizens of the world to do our part to protect one and each other. So, to be honest, we should all err on the side of caution because, as Paul said, the movie's made. It's not going anywhere. Even if it's in theaters, it's going to be there for a long time. Even if you don't get to see it in theaters, you'll get to see it at home. Your health and the well-being of all of us is more important. And as Christian said, a lot of people, are looking at the fact that, theaters are not going to be doing well. It's going to be bankruptcies, whatever. But the more disciplined we are about social distancing and flattening the curve now, the shorter the time will be. Mm-hmm. If we all work together, we will be able to get through this quickly, and then we can work on rebounding. Now, one thing that my dad said, which is like really a funny thing, but it's true, is that we know how to revive economies.
Yes.
We do not know how to revive human life.
Yeah.
So until we know how to resurrect people, we have to err on the side of caution. We can resurrect economies. We've gone through depressions. The economic cycle goes through recessions from time to time. Businesses fail and are booming again. We know how to do that, but we do not know how to resurrect lives. And until we do, we have to be smart, and we have to have our priorities in order. It's immoral to value money over human life. Will life be uncomfortable for us? We're not going to be able to spend as much as we used to. We're not, like my hair is getting unruly and growing bushy. I haven't had a haircut. Also, I'm not able to go to the gym. I love to go to the gym and all that stuff. And I've not gone to a bar with friends. That's difficult. But it's nothing compared to human suffering and the loss of life. So we have to have our priorities in order and remember our values as human beings. Very important. So you guys, I really like where you took it. And I'm going to be very, very careful when it comes out. I'm encouraging people to err on the side of caution. Don't do as I do, do as I say.
Now you sound like my dad.
Okay, so those are the topics I was most passionate about this week. That was a very lengthy discussion. So, Christian, why don't you lead us and let's talk about what you have for us.
So the first thing, do we want to go into Last of Us or we want to go into Star Wars? Which would you prefer, Lupe? You want to do Last of Us?
Let's go with Star Wars first.
Star Wars first. Okay, yeah. I apologize. I got the notes on my side and I lost the notes, so that's my fault. So Star Wars. There's two things with Star Wars. You guys know I'm a huge Star Wars fan. We got Paul on here as a big Star Wars fan, and Lupe, not so much a Star Wars fan. So the Star Wars series, the main Star Wars series, is taking a little break when it comes to the movies, and I think that's probably a good thing. However, we are getting an Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney+. We're getting a Cassian Andor series that will be pre-Rogue One. Rogue One was a fantastic movie. That's coming to Disney+. The Mandalorian has been renewed all the way through season 3. Go figure that out. And in books and comics, look, we're getting Darth Vader stories. We're getting the High Republic timeline, back when the Jedi were at their peak. And I'm going to talk about in 2 seconds about a story that's being led by a female on Disney+. There's a new story that a new series that they're going to be talking about introducing soon. However, the big news that came out this past week was that Taika Waititi is going to be directing and co-writing a new Star Wars movie. Enter the insane Star Wars fans. Here we go again. So the person, if I want to make sure that I get this correct, by the way, I believe it's the co-writer of 1917, Christy Wilson Cairns, is also helping to deliver the script. So that's pretty heavy. So between Taika and her, that's pretty heavy duty. Now, trying to look at this in a vacuum, he's a very talented filmmaker. Mm-hmm. I finally got a chance to watch Jojo Rabbit. It's great. It's freaking great. He has a football comedy coming out. It's going to be called The Next Goal Wins, and that's with Michael Fassbender and Elizabeth Moss. That looks good. But he injects this cheeky, cocky, indie silliness into his movies. And it's arguable that his Mandalorian episode, by the way, was the best of that entire season. It was fantastic. But is that Jon Favreau, since he's the showrunner? So is that really Favreau and not Taika? I'm not sure. But let's be honest here. The Star Wars fans are freaking crazy. I'm an old school fan. I've said this numerous times before, and I don't really care what Star Wars fans I get mad on this one. I really just don't care. I remember Star Wars fans hating George Lucas when he did the special editions. They hated the prequels. They quote unquote said he raped our childhood. They chased him out of it. he basically sold because he was so pissed off. Plus, he, wanted to get his retirement account all set up, but he donated a lot of the money as well. But, from hating the man himself, and of course, hating everything that Disney has done, whether it's the trilogy, whether it's Rogue One, whether it's Rebels, whether it's whatever, it doesn't matter. Us as Star Wars fans, we are freaking nuts. We are crazy. We're rabid. That's just how we are. Now enter Waititi. This guy is divisive. Thor 3 was probably the most polarizing MCU movie out there. If you're like me and you like the direction that they're going with Thor now, as a guy that really thought he was the strongest Avenger, a guy that really has lost everything, and this is his PTSD, this is his rock bottom, he's actually hit what would be Thor's rock bottom, then you like it. Other people don't, and when they don't, I'm telling you, they don't. Like, they hate this movie. And he's going into Thor 4, and it looks like he's going hard into that direction with a female Thor, which, by the way, fits the comic books, but that's another story entirely. It looks like he's going hard into that direction. So this, I don't know, is something, look, if the one thing that Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, and Lucasfilm want to do is to bring the fans together, they did a great job with that, I think, in Clone Wars Season 7. Mandalorian seems to be going that route. Not everybody is 100% sold on it, but for the most part, people really seem to like The Mandalorian. You had Rian Johnson doing whatever the fuck he was trying to do with Last Jedi. I liked it. Paul hates it. There you go. There's a perfect example of it right there. We cannot agree on that movie really at all, except that Rise of Skywalker actually might have done better with its connections to Last Jedi. It made Last Jedi better for Paul a little bit. That's like the only thing that we can agree on. So with all the divisiveness that Star Wars had, I ask both of you guys, is Taika Waititi the right guy for this? Now, he brings something different, that cosmic aspect that maybe Star Wars has been missing with this new trilogy. But is he going to go into the lore like George Lucas did? Even whether you like the prequels or not, he went deep into the lore in the prequels. He went crazy into it. There was a spiritualism to the Force in addition to the scientific side of the Force. He world built, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if Taika's the guy to do that. Is he going to kind of stay cheeky? So I'll ask Paul first, just because he's the Star Wars fan, and I kind of know which direction he's going to go into. And then I want to hear Lupe's side too, because I think I remember you talking about Jojo Rabbit in a separate pod. So just what do you guys think? Do you think he's the right guy for the job?
I think. Well, let me, because I'm not going to have much to say. So
Sure.
Paul, you'll be able to take the stage for quite a bit and wrap us up. But Taika is a very interesting director. Like he's very talented. Like in terms of the craft of filmmaking, don't get it twisted. Regardless of what you think about his style, which is an auteur style, he's a very, very skilled filmmaker. Now, I personally don't like his style.
Gotcha.
And no, you know what? That's actually not fair to say, because I love Flight of the Conchords. I love What We Do in the Shadows. I like those, but I don't like it I don't like what he did with Thor: The Dark World. I haven't seen the Mandalorian series, but from what I've seen of clips and pictures, it seems he didn't deviate from the tone that was set. So that seemed like, I mean, I haven't seen it, and you said it was good, so I believe you. And he was going to make an Akira movie. I'm 100% sure that would not have been a cringy joke fest. And I think that with this Star Wars movie, I don't think that really Star Wars is, you can go either way with Star Wars, because let's not forget, Star Wars has some cringy, weird humor. Even the original trilogy has some comedic side characters and some
old school fans forget how silly Star Wars can be.
Exactly.
They forget.
Star Wars can be silly, but it does have the serious parts, but it has some. So I'm not sure what he's going to do, what's the tone he's going to strike, if he's going to go all the way and make it like super goofy, or it's going to be more serious. I personally, when I look at worlds like Star Wars, I prefer if they're very serious, gravely serious. That's why I enjoyed The Last Jedi so much. I know it did have its ridiculous parts, but to me, the sort of like very serious, grounded parts and the overall tone was a bit more serious.
The comedy of The Last Jedi is what turned me off. Not to turn this into a Last Jedi debate, but I still thought it was overly goofy. But anyway, go on.
The overall tone for me felt a little bit more somber, felt a little bit more serious. Obviously, there'll be ridiculous parts, ridiculous humor. I didn't enjoy it, but as I said, I don't like any of the humor in any Star Wars movie. And I'm talking about the original ones included. I think the humor is like absolutely atrocious. But that's just me. So I never counted that in The Last Jedi. That's not even something I even think about, because if I do, I'll hate every single Star Wars movie. That's the way it is. So I prefer it when it's darker, when it's more serious. That's why a lot of people are really looking forward to something in the Old Republic, because I'm sure that underneath those demands for an Old Republic movie is that people want something very serious and very dark for Star Wars. People are just not saying it out. So I'll be curious to see where he takes it. I haven't seen him do something very serious, but I know he can do it. And as you guys said, his Mandalorian episode, it wasn't like crazy comedic or anything like that. It was well crafted. So I think it's fine. And besides, a lot of the Star Wars fans are also Marvel fans and Disney fans. It's the whole family there. So I think they'll all have fun with it. It's not something I'm looking forward to or anything like that, but I don't think it's a bad choice, personally.
Yeah, before we go to Paul, I think what people have to be careful with is they tend to look at him through the lens of MCU and Thor, and then that's it. He gets painted into just that one thing. Stop. We got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Before you say, I do think Thor is his worst work, and also I didn't exactly love Jojo Rabbit, and I personally I thought that the comedic element undercut a seriousness of his message, and there was a lot of
commentary.
A lot of mixed message in there for me. But that's to do with tastes. That's all it is.
I got you. Paul, hit us up.
Yeah. So, well, I think you may raise a fair point that people's impression of Waititi is often colored by his Thor movies or Thor Ragnarok and the upcoming was Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yes.
I could not stand Ragnarok. I thought it was beyond parody. Like, it was to the point where that opening scene, I didn't even believe that was really the movie. I thought, am I actually watching the movie, or is this like some kind of like weird comedic like trailer or something? And then you realize, oh shit, this is actually the movie, and it didn't get better from there, right? So on the one hand,
except for me, it got better. But go ahead.
I really dislike what he did with Thor Ragnarok, and when you hear his comments about Thor: Love and Thunder, I think he was just quoted as saying, it's like 10-year-olds gave us all of their best ideas and we took every one of them or something, right? Like he revels in the goofiness of his films, and I think he loves rubbing it in the faces of the people that don't like his goofiness. So that's really concerning when it comes to Star Wars. Now, with The Mandalorian, so this is why I have sort of mixed feelings. His episode is actually one of the better episodes of The Mandalorian. I was kind of lukewarm on The Mandalorian. I'm not one of these people that thought this was like peak Star Wars. I thought it was mostly filler with a handful of decent but not great episodes, enough to keep me intrigued and watching, but barely more than that, like barely. And I thought he had, I think probably my favorite episode. And so I do have some optimism that he can pull this off. Now, before his episode of The Mandalorian aired, back when they first announced he'd be directing, he indicated that they had made clear to him that Star Wars, that he had to dial down the comedy, that this was Star Wars, and there's a tone he has to adhere to, and they made it clear to him. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to go with that same approach for whatever film he comes up with. Also, the fact that the screenplay is going to be written by the writer of 1917. Now, I'm not familiar with Christy Wilson Cairns, but I did see 1917. I liked it. If she's the writer, that gives me some hope that it's not going to be a comedy cringe fest, right? But I don't like his style typically. I don't like his cocky attitude. I even remember he made comments like throwing the people who made Green Lantern under the bus, just because he had a small part in that film, if I'm not mistaken, and he was basically going on about how they didn't listen to his suggestions, and he told them it wasn't going to work, and this and that, and it just kind of turned me off. And I've seen him interviewed a few times, and his aura, his persona just kind of turns me off. I'm sure lots of people love him. Lots of people love that sort of cocky snarkiness. That just rubs me the wrong way, though. So he's just not my kind of filmmaker. That being said, I'm holding out that sliver of hope because I actually did, in fairness, like his episode of The Mandalorian. But he wouldn't be my first choice for Star Wars. But until we get a better idea of what we're looking at, until we see a trailer, until I have confirmation that this is going to be a Ragnarok style goof fest, I'm going to hold out a little bit of hope. Once we see that it's full blown ridiculous comedy, then I'll back out. But until that point, I'll give him a chance.
Yeah, and I believe at the moment we're not 100% sure exactly what era of Star Wars they're going into. Are they going to continue the Rey storyline from here? Are they going to go back into the Old Republic? Are they going to go far into the future? I don't know if we have that information just yet. But if Lucasfilm, and by extension, of course, Disney, is trying to do the best they can to say, okay, maybe we'll bring fans together here, I don't know. I mean, again, for me, I don't necessarily have an issue with him doing this. I don't. It's just, is that the guy that you're looking for if you want to say, I want to bring the fandom together, when he can definitely be a bit on the divisive side when it comes to this stuff? I don't know. So something to keep an eye on as we move forward, especially as we start learning a little bit more about the direction that movie is going to take.
Well, the one thing, Christian, sorry, is one point
Yeah.
I just wanted to make. You mentioned that Star Wars fans were up in arms about this. I don't know that I share that same perception. I think that there's a shift.
But go ahead.
Well, I see a lot of Star Wars fans jumping on board because you've got the Star Wars fan base is so fractured since Last Jedi, right?
I agree.
And it seems like the MCU fans have really adopted the Last Jedi. Like the MCU fans really align tightly with the Last Jedi, and they're gonna love anything Waititi puts on the screen with Star Wars. I mean, it doesn't matter what he puts on the screen; they're gonna love it. And you see that already. They're ecstatic about Waititi. I mean, this is an inspired choice, right? He can do no wrong. So you're going to get that huge MCU fan base and the goodwill that he brings with them, right? So who do you have left that is pissing off? You have original Star Wars fans that is pissing off. You have the Star Wars segment of the Star Wars fandom that aligns with DC fandom, which is where I am. It's going to probably rub those people the wrong way. But I mean, if you look at Disney, who do they want? They want to bring in their Marvel fans. They want Star Wars to be like Marvel, and they own Marvel, so they're bringing their guys over to Star Wars to make it like Marvel. So I don't think this is causing as much outrage. I think this is being met with more approval than it is outrage. Certainly all the bloggers and the popular narrative is going to spin this as a positive.
Well,
But I mean, they create the narrative. All these talking heads that prop up the MCU are going to be 100% on board with this, and that narrative is going to permeate the popular psyche. And people are going to think this is great. And already, I think, probably 2/3 of the fandom probably thinks this is great. So I think financially and from a popularity standpoint, this is a no lose. Like this is gonna be great for them. I'm just concerned from a quality perspective. And is this going to be the Star Wars that I love, or is this going to be MCU Star Wars? And time will tell, right?
Yeah, and that's the only problem is I think we wind up taking, I don't want to use the word gatekeeper. That's a horrible thing to say, but it's we take such ownership of it, and it's like, well, it's the Star Wars I love, or is it, right now I love all Star Wars, so that's pretty much how I am. I pretty much like it all. And some people just call me, I'm a corporate shill, and I just consume, but I just love Star Wars. That's how I am. There are others, and you know this from being part of the fandom, Paul, that they're only OG fans. That's it. Then there's others that hated the prequels, but they've come on board, and now they hate the sequels. And there's others that think the sequels are better. Then there's others. I mean, that's just the fandom has split like that.
Three layers of division or more, maybe. Yeah.
And you do raise it. I think you raise a good point, though, that Taika could be a way for Disney to bring on this other fan base. But I still feel, I could totally be wrong, Paul, absolutely, that if you're trying to bring this fandom together, I just don't know if that's the way to do it. Because sure, you could bring MCU Disney people in, but are you bringing the rest of the Star Wars fans in? That's all I'm asking.
I'm not sure they care anymore. I think if they could get their MCU fandom over, they're willing to lose the others. Maybe that's just my gut feeling. So, and
maybe do we need to die off? I don't even want to go down that route. But anyway,
well, I don't think so, because we're the ones bringing our kids to their theme parks. So
yeah, that's true too. There is a quick. Anyway. No, you're right, Paul. You're right. There's a quick Star Wars side note in here too, as they slowly expand the Star Wars universe, and I just want to ask you guys what you think about it. A report came in from Variety, and then it was in a couple of other areas as well. But another Star Wars series is in the works, and it's going to be going into Disney Plus. According to the article, the series hails from Leslie Headland, who's the co-creator, showrunner, and executive producer of the Netflix series Russian Doll, which, as you guys probably know, got a lot of critical acclaim. Now, details of the plot of the series right now are being kept under wraps, but sources are telling us it will be a female-centric series that takes place in a different part of the Star Wars timeline than any project that we've seen before. Headland is said to be attached to write and serve as the showrunner on the series, with the show currently going through staffing right now. They tried to reach out to Headland and also to Disney for a comment, and they did not respond to their request. So I ask you guys, I don't know if you've seen Russian Doll, if you know anything about it, but what do you think of them expanding Star Wars into these shows now that are going into live action on Disney Plus, as opposed to going into the movies at the moment? You want to start? I guess we'll go with Lupe first.
I think for a cinematic universe, it's the smartest thing to do. It really is. And Star Wars has always been that. It's been able to express itself across whatever storytelling platform is available, whether it's in games, whether it's in board games, whether it's in playing cards. I've seen Star Wars playing cards, like, whether it's, video games, of course, this is, immensely popular, not the novelizations, novels. So yeah, I think it's smart. I think that they're doing. I mean, aside from the shit show of the shit show of all shit shows that was trilogy that just happened.
Yep.
I think that Disney, part of why Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney is that they have the different avenues to tell stories for this property, whether you're talking about theme parks or games or books or whatever action figure choice, and they really should be doing that. And also, I do think that they do need to bring Star Wars back to theaters. There need to be plans for that. That's like the foundation. It's kind of like, not to bring this back to DCEU, but it's kind of like DCEU without Superman. You can't have Star Wars humming if there aren't movies that are doing well and the story being told in the movies. That's their bread and butter. Now, it's okay if they want to take a break for a while, but that break can't be for too long, or else it's not being all that it can be. I mean, Star Wars started, in theaters. It's a, blockbuster in theaters, and that's the core, like, just conceptually, they've got to get that right. I think that the thing with TV series and video games and is that, I mean, we haven't dissected that yet, and that would make a great topic to talk about. But why is it that there isn't as much pressure and interference? And, a lot of properties seem to do better as video games, as, graphic novels, as as whatever other type of storytelling, medium there is. But when it comes to movies, the big tentpole blockbusters can tend to be quite controversial, especially established ones. Yeah. So obviously it's hard to do on the silver screen, but it's something that they have to do conceptually. They just owe it to the DNA and the essence of what Star Wars is to get it right on the big screen.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have these shows that fleshes out the Star Wars universe, and whether Mandalorian is great Star Wars or good Star Wars, it's nice to have that, and the Obi-Wan show and flip. But yeah, man, it's the movies. It's that's I mean, think about it. That was the first experience for how many people went to go see a New Hope, probably in like a drive-in, or they were hanging out with their kids and they brought their kids to see Star. It was the spectacle of it. And yeah, I don't think you want to lose all that, Paul, what about you?
Well, I think it's going to depend entirely on the story and the setting. So my number one concern with Disney. So first of all, I've enjoyed 8 out of 9 movies. I mean, Disney's only responsible for 3, and I've enjoyed 2 out of those 3. And The Last Jedi it
Well,
was
don't
a
forget Rogue
well-made.
One and Solo. They're also
Oh, you're
responsible
right.
for
You
those
know
two
what?
too.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you're right. So sorry, I actually enjoyed 4 to 5 Disney movies because I enjoyed Solo and Rogue One.
Hmm.
I think Rise of Skywalker has actually been my favorite of the bunch. I know
Hmm.
a lot of people disagree with me, but I think given the position they were put in, they did an incredible job with it. So to me, that gives me hope that they're actually on the right track, the Rise of
Hmm.
Skywalker, because I think and we've gone into long debates on this before, but I think they
Sure.
really had to pick up the pieces and pick up the setups that they introduced in Episode 7 were intentionally thrown away in Episode 8, and they had to pick those back up in 9 and wrap it all up in a bow and still try to tie in Episode 8. And I think they did a remarkable job. Are there a few things I would have done differently? Absolutely. But overall, I liked the movie. I mean, I had issues with The Force Awakens too, and I've had little issues with every film, but for the most part, with the exception of The Last Jedi, I've enjoyed the movies. Now, their series, I cannot say the same. I thought Rebels was a big step down from Clone Wars. Now, I think the second half of season 2 of Rebels was excellent, like peak animated Star Wars. I think it was on the same level as Clone Wars. I thought it was really good.
Hmm.
The rest of Rebels, I thought, was mostly filler, and I was more and more frustrated with every episode because it always seemed like there was potential, like maybe this is the week we're actually going to do something, and it was just more filler and more filler and more filler and more excuses and more maybe next week. And I got a lot of that same vibe with The Mandalorian. 8 episodes praised, but what does it really get praised for? It gets praised for Baby Yoda. Oh, isn't Baby Yoda cute? I mean, there's some other positive elements to the series, but the Baby Yoda thing wore off real fast for me. And aside from that, I'd say there was about three episodes I enjoyed, and maybe 5 episodes where I was like, yeah, I guess it was okay. I mean, so I didn't hate it. Maybe there's 1 or 2 episodes where I was really like, wow, that wasn't good, but it was just mediocre and fillerish. And then we get to this season 7 of Clone Wars, and the first 8 episodes were frustrating. They had their moments of entertainment, but mostly filler, mostly the kind of nonsense I wish I didn't waste my time on. And then we got to the last 4 episodes of season 7 of Clone Wars, and you put those together as a movie, and you have a fantastic animated Star Wars movie. So they proved that they can do it. I mean, it was great, but there's been so little great and so much filler in the Disney Star Wars series outside of the theatrical releases that I don't have any confidence that this isn't also going to be filler. And my general impression and fear with Disney is that you're going to get an 8 to 10 hour series that probably should have been 3 hours, and they're going to drag it out and stretch it out, and they're probably going to neuter it, and it's not going to have a lot of consequences, and you're just going to end up being frustrated that they were afraid to go to the places they should have gone. And that's typically how I feel about most Disney Star Wars. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but it really, as I say, it comes down to the story. It comes down to the consequences. And maybe by going to an era that's outside of anything they've done before, they can actually have some consequences because they're not afraid of screwing up some continuity or some beloved character, or they can actually take some chances and do something. But it's Disney, so I'm not super optimistic. That being said, it's Star Wars, so I'll give it a chance. Until I see the trailers, I'm going to reserve judgment, and then ultimately I'll watch a show anyway, at least give it a chance, the first couple episodes. And hopefully it'll turn out being okay. But time will tell.
Yeah, and I think going to a different era might be a big thing too, because Disney has proven that they've been a little hesitant, maybe a lot hesitant, to mess around too much with the established characters and the established storyline, and that's fine. Getting into new characters and new stories sometimes can be good too. Brandon and I just did a retrospective on Rebels recently. We both did a rewatch, and we just found out how much we really enjoyed the show. It's not Clone Wars, it's not, but we both said, wow, we were into season 3 and 4. We're kind of like, wow, there's a lot more going on here than we thought. And they're going deep into Ezra's story and the Emperor and the connections of the mysticism and the religious part of the Force. And there was a lot to talk about in that show, more about family than we would have expected as well. So I think sometimes filler can be a little subjective. So
Yeah.
my filler might not be your filler, but you bring up a really good point when you're talking about going into different eras, because Disney has shown that they do not feel comfortable messing with the established lore.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Sorry.
And part of the thing, well, I was just going to add to that, Christian, is that you're right. It is subjective because I don't care about Ezra. I just don't. I don't care about the clones. I don't care about these peripheral characters.
Yeah, I know it's
Like,
been a big day.
like
Brandon and I love clones. You hate the clones.
yeah, give me Anakin, give me Darth
Yeah,
Vader. That's what I
yeah.
care. Give me Ahsoka. That's what I care. Hell, give me Sabine. I even like Sabine, but stop feeding me Ezra and the clones and all these other peripheral characters. I can't even remember their names. Like what's her name? Bo-Katan. Like, yeah, she's fine. She was fine in Clone Wars as a, but like enough. Give me some meat. Give me the good characters I care about, and give them a meaningful story arc. And if you can't do that within the established timeline that you've already picked clean, then move to a different era and do Old Republic or whatever this series is going to be, and make it have consequences. Give us main characters we care about with real stakes and consequences. But trying to pick peripheral characters out of an existing timeline, where no matter how much you try to prop them up or develop them, they're never going to be the central figures in the story. I just don't care. I don't have time for Ezra. I don't have time or interest for Ezra. I just don't. Now, Ahsoka's the exception to the rule. She worked, but they haven't been able to recreate that magic with any of these other characters for me.
Yeah, see that. Hence the division in the Star Wars fans. Ugh, it's like you said. Let's take it one step at a time and see if they have learned from some of that. I think that obviously there are fans that love it. There's fans that hate it, and this is tough. They're in a rough spot, and some of it is of their own making. It's that simple. Some of it is absolutely of their own making, and some of it is us. So we'll have to see. But Star Wars will continue to be this bone of contention even between the fans. Moving on, because I do want to get to Paul's. I want to get to his subjects at the end here too. Let's talk about a video game. And I think most of us on the Exiles who are gamers, we love the game The Last of Us, and we have been itching for anything that comes out about The Last of Us Part 2. This game, for so many of us, is the closest we're going to get to playing a cinematic experience. Obviously, there's been a couple other games that come close, but there is something about The Last of Us that touches all of us. Great story, great voice acting. The graphics are incredible. It's scary. It's emotional. It's sad. It's even funny at times. Just a fantastic journey from beginning to end that makes us question, I think, humanity. Last of Us is just a wonderful game. Now we're learning that Last of Us 2 finally has a release date. As of the recording of this particular pod, it is supposed to be released on June 19th after being delayed indefinitely for a while in April due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's had an interesting road in the last couple of weeks that I definitely want to at least hear first from Lupe what he has to say, because we did get a beautiful trailer in the last 2 days, and according to a couple of websites, it quote unquote apparently confirmed some plot leaks. So let me give you guys the story real quick. I'll try to keep it short. This is a combination of Inverse, Polygon, and Eurogamer, if you guys are interested. On May 3rd, what's up? I thought somebody.
Go
I
ahead,
apologize.
Chris. No,
On May 3rd, reports came through from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, revealing that a specific vulnerability left Naughty Dog open to hackers, and it eventually resulted in a major part of Last of Us Part 2 getting leaked. It was about a terabyte worth of dumped data. It was crazy. In a quote, they said hackers found a security vulnerability in a patch for the older Naughty Dog game, and used it to get access to Naughty Dog's servers. I think the footage that leaked is from the developers playing an early build. Most importantly, rumors of this being an act of protest by a contractor whose pay was robbed are simply not true. All of this came after Sony announced this past Friday that the company had, quote unquote, identified the primary individuals responsible and confirmed that they were not affiliated with Naughty Dog, which of course leads people to ask what even led to the leak in the first place. So there's a couple of vague comments here about why the leak happened. People from Sony and others have revealed that a hacker group basically found their way to access Amazon servers that stored data for games like Uncharted 3 and, of course, the original Last of Us, which is a little crazy. They also, one final note that said, while this hacker group is connected to the original leak, their circle is more than just Naughty Dog enthusiasts like development content from their games rather than malicious actors. So while the fan group itself wasn't responsible for the leak, someone cognizant of what they were doing most certainly was. So basically, in a nutshell, after that leak came out, I want to be very clear. I have not read a damn thing about the leaks themselves. I've read the story surrounding the leak. I have made sure not, because I do not want to be spoiled from this at all.
Same.
I do not. So you're the same. Thank you. I'm glad you feel the same way. But what this has sparked is a firestorm on social media, and I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it in a bunch of other places as well. And I want to ask you guys what this says about fandom in general, because for me, if you saw the arguments online, so I can speak for myself here, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say. I saw pro SJW versus anti-SJW. That was like the big thing I saw online. Something that had to do with Ellie and her story and how it related to Joel. Once I started seeing that, I muted it. But this is the latest in a string of major leaks that have come out, to name just a couple: Endgame, Game of Thrones, Star Wars. That's just a few. And people who leak this stuff many times on Reddit, 4chan, a couple of other places, they claim to be fans. They quote unquote claim, I say. And then these fans, they don't approve of certain plot points, characters, or maybe they even have an agenda. So these leaks seem like they have a very specific agenda to me. And to me, it's almost like they're meant to poison the experience at all. So, I mean, for all, we don't know what the leaker's motivation was. We don't know if it was basically fans, a group of hackers, or just people that wanted to sow some discord, or if they don't like the direction that the franchise is going, so now they can destroy the experience for others. I often wonder, by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there, would fans hate something so much if they didn't see the leak beforehand? There was the bullshit that happened with Rise of Skywalker, with that coming out first, and people piled on the hate immediately. And I wondered if it just would have done its thing when the movie came out. Still would have been divisive. People still would have hated it. But I wonder if the hate train that got piled onto it beforehand would have really happened, if it would have been so deep, if we didn't get that leak beforehand, and then that narrative that came out around the leak. The fans or that group became gatekeepers. And to me, it's a really dark side of the fandom. I've said my piece. I want to hear what you guys have to say now, and I'll just hear what you have. So we'll start with Lupe.
All right. So I'm gonna take a different approach to this. Okay, so I'm very disappointed in the controversy. I'm very disappointed in how it's going to distract from what should be a pleasant experience. We've been very patient for this.
We really have, dude.
We really have been very patient. And it's sad that it's as if like this is our reward. Like after all these years of waiting, we're being rewarded with something that's going to be mired in controversy, and there's going to be tribalism, and there's going to be negative stuff, and can't we just have good things? And there are two sides to this. So there's the side of fandom, and the side of you have the people who leaked it because they didn't like the direction that it was going in. They didn't like, maybe it was like the script or the quote unquote SJW stuff. Then you have the side of the creators.
Yeah.
And they also have a part to share in the blame in this. One, they just took too damn long. And I know people are going to be like, what do you mean by they took too long? Like, they should be able to take whatever time it is. I think that the sense that I began to get, especially lately, was that they were perfecting it a bit too much. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Kind of like, and also they were taking, do I want to say advantage, but a little bit advantage of the fact that people want this game so much and they want it to be so great that they are going to wait for it. So I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's just a sense that I got with the delays and the tone of the press releases in terms of how they're delayed. And it's like, games do take a long time to me, but it's been, what, 7 years?
Basically, you know what? That's a good question. I should find out when the first Last of Us came out. You might be right.
Yeah, please go ahead while I continue. So it's been like so long, and you're trying to tell me that it didn't take that long to make the first one.
No.
So what is taking so long? I mean, maybe the story is bigger. You're doing more things, yes, but at the same time, you should put it out in a timely fashion. Mm-hmm. For this reason, when you delay things and delay them, you're going to get people who are going to lose patience with you. That's just life. And what I'm talking about is, I'm not necessarily even saying that they're wrong for delaying it, but you have to be conversant of the emotions of your audience. You have to be aware of the behavioral science. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like anything in life. People will have faith in you, and they'll give you a bit of a rope. But if you continue to push it and push it and push it, they're going to run out of patience. And that patience is going to turn into animosity. And I think that's kind of part of what's playing into this. The fact that people have just gotten tired of just waiting, and it's just like whatever. Where
Yeah.
But then you also have the quote unquote SJW stuff that's going on. I know a little bit of what's going on, and I've said this, like, whether you like it or not, people are not okay with taking franchises and taking them into a direction that's either female leaning or POC, or you have to be careful with properties.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a property that's female led and female driven and all that stuff, your best bet is to do that from the onset. Start with that. And people will probably like it. But if you're going to do that midstream and make a hard left, you're courting controversy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm not saying that they're right or they're wrong, but I think it's time that creators started to learn that lesson. We see it happen in movies all the time. We see it happen. We've seen it happen. There's so many examples of things that have just become like so controversial because of that. And I'm with the agenda. I love female-driven stories, and I feel that there should be more stories for people of color, for women, for people of a different sexual orientation that's, not the standard stuff that we've seen for aeons. It's time that we started telling these stories and showing how prevalent these people are in our society, and how normal and how wonderful their stories and their relationships are. But you have to be careful how you do it, because, as I've said before, part of giving a message is being aware of how you're telling that message. And if you don't tell that message the right way, you're going to, it's almost like you're defeating yourself. And so people need to be more tactful and more strategic, and just take a look at the landscape and see what's been going on and see how you can tell your stories. Because I've looked at the landscape, and, for example, like, you can't say that people don't like female-led stories or stories with people of colors, or stories with gay characters or transgender characters. That's not true. A lot of these stories do really well, but where you run into trouble is when it's been one way and then you make a hard left and turn it into that. Then you get this controversy, right or wrong. I'm not saying anyone is right, anyone is wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. And I feel like Naughty Dog should have they should have probably been a little bit more conversant about that. And I know some of the story arcs in this, and I think it's probably a little bit overblown and people are reaching, but it's a confluence of events. And I think that it first starts with the fact that they delayed this for just way too. It just, I mean, the number of delays is just, and it should be a lesson for other creators. Do not push the limits. I'm not sure if I've ever seen any AAA game that has been delayed this much, in which they've tested the audience's faith and really been so overconfident in the ability of people to wait with bated breath for their property.
Yeah, and you, by the way, you asked before, it is 2013. That's when Last of Us 1 came out. It is 7 years.
7 years. So yeah, that's what I have to say. I think both sides have lessons to learn. Definitely with fans and leaking stuff, and that, like, fans are terrible. Fans are just
bad. We're just bad.
Fans, but the truth of the matter is that we know this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, this is something that's why I'm looking at, like, God of War is another big one that's coming out, and they need to be really careful. Like stuff that's coming out like Halo. I think that creators and all that, they really need to look at the landscape and know what they're doing, and go forward from there. I'm looking forward to it. I'll play it with an open mind. I kind of know what goes on. I just hope that I hope it's overblown. I really do hope so. But we'll see. I mean, it's sad that this forced their hand into revealing the release dates. That's another thing that I'm looking, and another thing where I'm saying like Naughty Dog does have some part to blame in this.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Why didn't they announce this release date before this? Why was it this that had to force their hand into damage control? Why did they have so much faith and take their audience for granted, the goodwill of their audience for granted so much that that they didn't say, oh, you guys, we know you've been patient with us, don't worry, it's coming out on this day. Why do you have to be this controversial, horrible episode to force their hand into that? It's just the whole thing. It's sad because it's such a great franchise, and I really don't want this franchise to begin to go through the controversy and the rubbish that we've seen in a lot of other franchises.
Yeah, and I think you raised a couple of good points there. It is an extremely long time to wait, and I think that we all know how much we loved the original one and the add-ons. There was some great downloadable content that came out with that, and it looks like we're going to get great downloadable content with this as well to stretch out the story, to stretch out the game. There'll be a lot more here. The first one was very mature. It looks like this one will be more so. And I am very quick. I will admit it. I know my faults. I'm very quick to blame fans, and I am a fan. And I'm very quick to blame us as a group. But the corporation, you're right, absolutely has to shoulder their blame in this one, and they have to shoulder their part of it. And you don't want to do that. If like some of the things with Star Wars that Paul and I disagree on, we both agree how much we love Ahsoka Tano, and that is a strong female character that was created in Star Wars. So this has nothing to do with that. That's not what it has to do with that. I know what you're saying. It's when you take something and then you suddenly go off the reservation with it. That create it for what it is, and we'll love it. We'll suck it up. Now, Paul, I know you're not as much of a gamer, but you've heard about Last of Us. You've seen it. I'm taking it for granted you may have played the first one, so I want to hear what you have to say here.
No, so I've not played the first one.
Okay.
I have very little knowledge of the game or the character, so I don't have a whole lot to add here. I don't know what the leaks are, but with any of these typical, SJW versus, versus not SJW debates. Yeah. I mean, you could see both sides.
Sure.
From what one thing I've learned on Twitter over the last few years is that some of these SJWs are obnoxious.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of the they're kind of wrapped up with the cancel culture and the PC police and the virtue signalers. It's all this kind of the same group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, sometimes underneath all that vitriol, there are some valid points. It's just the way they go about it, like you said, Lupe. It's how the message is delivered. And I think that rubs people the wrong way. I mean, I know personally one of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way is when the agenda or the representation takes priority over the story, and it becomes the end goal and the measure by which success is determined. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, frustrates people. And I think it's counterproductive to the goal. Now, that being said, with things like Rey in Star Wars, I mean, I was really happy to have a female-led Star Wars trilogy, something that I could introduce my daughter to, and for the first movie it worked. I mean, you can see why they were doing it. They wanted to make it accessible to a different audience, and kids loved The Force Awakens. My daughter was right into it. Last Jedi killed that, and it never came back. I mean, with the last movie, my daughter said she enjoyed it, but she's like, Dad, kids don't like Star Wars anymore. Like, it came and went with The Force Awakens. And it sort of killed off the character. Now, Rey was not especially well developed, but she was a likable character. And by the time the trilogy was done, they did their best to sort of, patch over and explain how she was so powerful so quick. And it was a convincing, and maybe not, but they tried at least. Give them points for trying, right? So it's in the execution, right? If they made her earn it a little bit more, made her not so powerful right off the bat, have a little bit more of a natural character arc, and I think it could have been done a little better, but you certainly see why people do things like that. Now, I don't know what the specific issue is with The Last of Us 2, so I can't really comment on that specifically. All I can say is that you can see both sides, and I can understand frustrations when agenda becomes the priority, but you can also understand where some of these things come from. So, without knowing the specifics, there's probably no point in me adding anything more to that conversation.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to everybody is, please, if you haven't already, just stay away from the fucking leaks. Jesus Christ, just don't read shit. Just do yourself.
And also go with an open mind.
Yeah, go with an open mind.
With an open mind, and and be a little bit more sensitive to the desires of people who haven't had their stories told. I mean, there's two sides to it, because don't get, as Paul said, a lot of these people who want, whether it's POC or LGBTQ or female stories, sometimes they're really obnoxious, really, like, there are people I know who have accounts who is like, it's the age of women and we don't need men, and they have a very divisive message. But there are people who are just like, you know what? I just want to see more female stories.
Yeah.
I'm also like that. I love that sentiment. We should see as many female stories as female stories. And people need to be sort of sensitive to that desire, and be a little bit empathetic. Obviously, when it's obnoxious and it's a divisive sort of toxic feminist or toxic LGBTQ or toxic POC agenda, then I can't vouch for it and encourage anyone to champion anything that's divisive. But we all deserve to have our stories heard, and people should be a little bit sensitive to it. So it may not be poorly done in the story. It may be organic, and it may work. Although there's a spoiler that I've seen that seems to be interesting, but yeah.
Well, and sometimes it's the narratives that accompany these things. It's not even the fault of the art itself. It's the fault of the narratives that accompany them. Like, look at Birds of Prey. I mean, the narratives were more obnoxious than the film itself, right? And the conversation around it, right? So it's the aggressiveness.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm listening.
No, I was just gonna say it's the aggressiveness with which these agendas are pushed, and it's when the one thing that blew me away about social media and Twitter is when people put out tweets hating white people or hating white men, you're getting tens and thousands of likes, like on these outright like hateful tweets. Like, there's a real animosity towards white men out there.
I know, and it's not
it blew me away.
That. Like, it's in so many different iterations. We even have it, people who are, about like, gay agenda and saying like, oh, it's I don't want to get too much into it, because I'm also sensitive to the struggles of that community. But I think that, like anything, it can be done in a bad way. People need to be able to find balance, and we all need to love each other. We all need to remember that we're all in this together. Yes, you may have been wronged, but if you want a world in which your side is taking over and you're pushing people, then you're just as bad, as selfish, and as discriminatory as the side that you were saying was horrible. We should celebrate each other. And so, like me on social media right now, I don't follow or engage with anyone who has a divisive message. I just don't. Like, I used to, because I used to follow like a bunch of people, and they were, I followed some people who were like feminists, and every other post would be about how men are trash and a woman, and it's like, I'm not here for that. Like, I'm not your therapist. I celebrate women, and I want to put out messages that are inclusive of everybody. And I feel like that's the way we should all be. Social media it's bred a very toxic strain of social activism.
And it's very very simple for us to hide behind our smartphones or our laptops and say this stuff and not worry about it. And you mentioned Paul mentioned Rey and everything. Like, I love her character. I think she's fantastic in Star Wars. But guess what? It's okay to hate her. That's number one. But what's not okay is when people use her, whether the company's doing it, because we know they do it, or there's people using her for their own agenda and using it for their own toxicity and use it. That's when shit hits the fan. That's when stuff goes downhill. And you are stopping a conversation at that point, and all you're doing is sowing everything negative that we've been talking about. And everything that you just mentioned, Lupe, is 100% correct. I think movies, you want to see with POC, Absolutely. I loved Black Panther because it was Black Panther, but I have friends that are persons of color that said, yeah, but Chris, you don't understand why that movie meant a little more to me. I'm like, you're probably right. I don't get it. You're right. I don't get it. I'm not going to cross that boundary. But it's things like that. But when it's used for something else, yeah, we can get into a really dark place when we should be trying to help one another, especially in a time like this. We should be trying to see things from each other's viewpoint, especially somebody like me. I should be trying to see it from that viewpoint, but not from that toxic angle. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
That
It
doesn't work.
it really doesn't. I just hope that, we all learn and we can all come together and there can be, more unity, because whenever I see all those messages of, oh, white men are horrible, or it's just, it, like, even me, I cringe at it, because I'm like, that's just, you, like, as I said, it's about messaging. You got to be smart. Like, you're not going to win anyone over to your side by attacking them. You're not. Like, even if you're right, even if we say, okay, history shows us that this.
Yep.
But you got to be tactful. You got to remember, not everyone is the same. You got to leave room for people to have a redemption story and come over to your side. And you got to, so, I mean,
I still don't even know what a cis white male is. I don't know what cis stands for. I'm pretty sure I am one. But what I have learned is oh my God, are they hated? Like, there's nothing more vile than the cis white male. Holy shit!
The funniest thing, which Christian alluded to, is that, talking about people hiding behind screens and all that sort of thing, is that, how come we never meet any of these people in real life?
Yeah.
Holy crap!
I'm telling you, they come on social media and they talk all of this stuff, but in real life they dare not open their mouths and spew all of this, because they know that it's not conducive for getting along with people. It's not conducive for human interaction in the real world. It's not respectful. It's not polite, So they don't do it in the real world. They don't. But then they get on social media and it's, I hate men, blah blah blah. But then they meet you outside and they act like regular human beings. So that's why I'm not a fan of social media, social activism. I look upon it with disdain, and I'm not a fan of it at all.
I agree. That led into that was a deep conversation. I feel bad, Paul. You got a couple things you want to bring up, so I think we'll end it there. But that was good stuff, guys. That was good stuff.
All right. On a slightly lighter note, I get to shill for Disney 3 topics in a row.
Hey,
you shill.
And all kidding aside, I am a Disney shill. So let me start with National Treasure. So I really enjoyed the first 2 National Treasure movies. They're a little more lighthearted than and even Indiana Jones is lighthearted, but maybe a little more goofy. But they're fun. They're fun family adventure movies. And apparently, Jerry Bruckheimer was recently interviewed by Collider, talking about a new series for Starz called Hightown. And he was asked about National Treasure. He revealed that they are.
1 second before you go on. Hightown, do you know what it is?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, I have to research that, because in case you guys didn't know, Jerry Bruckheimer was the producer of Black Sails.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So whenever I hear that his name is behind anything,
there's Black Sails again.
I'm all in. I have to research this. So that's just an aside.
Look it up. Let us know what you find. So he revealed that they're not only planning a National Treasure 3 for theatrical release, but they're also planning a Disney Plus TV series. So he's quoted here as saying, we're certainly working on one for streaming, and we're working on one for the big screen. Hopefully they'll both come together and we'll bring you another National Treasure, but they're both very active. The one for Disney Plus is a much younger cast. It's the same concept, but a young cast. The one for theatrical would be the same cast. When he says the same cast, I think he means the same as the original theatrical releases 1 and 2, and not the same cast as the Disney Plus series. But I'm not sure about now that I reread it. Anyway, he goes on to say that the film version is being written right now. The television version is in process. We've done a pilot script and an outline for the future episodes. So So they've moved on. I shouldn't say moved on, but they're fairly far along in the process for the television series. So this interests me. This is something that I'd definitely be interested in. Probably more so the movie than the series, but you know what? I'd watch the series. I'll give it a chance. What do you guys think? Does this interest you guys at all? Do you guys have any affection for the first two films?
You know what? Let me just dive right in. When the first two films came out, I wouldn't say I was old enough to be able to appraise films on any level with substance. I can remember they were popular, and I can remember enjoying them. I know that they had a lot of you know, these weird clues about monuments and these conspiracies. So I can just remember, like, it's a little bit ridiculous, but I like adventure movies. I love treasure, you know, seeking movies. So you guys know, Black Sails also has like treasure. I had to drop that in there.
Does Black Sails tie fantasy in with real history
No.
and real historical
No.
artifacts? Because that's one of the things I liked about National Treasure. Even if it's ridiculous, I like that they tie it into real things. It helps you suspend disbelief, right?
No, you like, when you guys watch it, that it's so uniquely done, because what they do is that it's told like a historical epic, but it's fantastical, but there are no fantastical elements. So what I can say is, if you really know Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones first started, we weren't even sure if there was going to be any magic in it, that's because they actually didn't have the budget to do magic.
Yeah.
So there were a couple seasons, even I think maybe the first and second season, where there was no magic, period. And it feels like that. And then also they use historical pirates. Mm-hmm. So they're actually mixing like real life history with a fantasy world that they've created. And they use characters from Treasure Island. So Long John Silver is there. Captain Jack Flint is there. But then they have real life pirates like Jack Rackham and Bonnie and Blackbeard. And those are like actual pirates. Like, you can go look in history books about them. So they mix them up. Then they have like this pirate Nirvana, which is a fantasy for pirates. It's called Nassau, which is just pirate folklore, a secret island where, you know, they can go and be away from everyone else. It's there. And it's just, it's incredible. Incredible. Like, I wish I'd never seen it so I can watch it for the first time again. That's how good it is. But talking about going back to what we're talking about. Yeah, I guess I'm going to wait to see what you guys think about it. I'm not like super excited and super pumped, but I do feel like these are the type of things that I like when Disney does, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I am tentatively looking forward to it, but not super like hyped up on it.
Yeah, I think this is where Disney shines, you know, with these kind of things. And, you know, there's certain franchises that I love that I would not want the Disney treatment applied to, DC being one of them. But when it's not a franchise that I have a real affinity for, and Disney can just take these things and make them in their sort of style, I really enjoy these things. These are fun family entertainment that, you know, I think everyone can enjoy. And that's, you know, what brings in, when it works, those are a lot of fun and they make a lot of money. So, you know, hope for the best on this one, at least me personally. Christian, what are your thoughts on this one? Do you have any, you know, appreciation for the earlier films?
Appreciation, definitely. I mean, I'm like Lupe. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm waiting with bated breath for this thing to come out, but it's not a negative either. I think the first two movies are a lot of friggin' fun. Nicolas Cage overacts in basically everything that he does, but he bought there was just something about him in the first two movies that I really liked. He was fun. He wasn't like overly cocky. He brought that kind of goofiness to it, but he was also the smartest guy in the room at the same time. And, you know, kind of quasi Indiana Jones, like Paul said, but, you know, without the archaeologist kind of part of it. And it's just and it was also updated to today because Indiana Jones back in the 1930s, whatever. But so still, definitely two fun movies. we can go into another conversation in another day that this is, Disney milking another IP that they have and potentially trying to turn it now into a series. But I will say this, having another movie with that original cast would probably be the proper mix of nostalgia and action and adventure and comedy to definitely get me to go see the movie. And I think a lot of other people would go to see it too. I think they'd pay to go see that. However, this might be the right way to make a Disney Plus show. Disney Plus, as it is already geared towards a younger audience, or the audience that likes Star Wars, Marvel, stuff like that. So it's already geared toward that audience anyway. And you might make this little like adventure show that has a younger crowd to it, and they can go on to different treasure hunts. Shit, you might even get me into that as long as it's not like a Disney Saturday morning cartoon.
Mhm.
So, as long as it's not, Miley Cyrus jumping in there for Hannah Montana Part 2 does National Treasure, yeah, then I'm going to be fine with it. So I think this is good all around. I'll just say, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and wait bated breath for it to come out, but highly entertaining 2 movies. And Bruckheimer, like you said, he's a good guy to do this. He's absolutely a good guy to do this. So, and this seems like a really cool idea for a show. So it just depends on how they execute it, but definitely seems like a cool idea for a show. A lot of fun.
All right. Well, next up on our Disney trifecta here is a rumored Pirates of the Caribbean reboot. Now, there's been rumors of this for a while. They've sort of waffled on, what's going to happen with the future of Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow, and whether or not they're going to continue on with him or reboot. But most recently, now this is a report from an insider, well, from Daniel RPK, Daniel Rickman, who, I think people have different opinions on the validity of some of his scoops, but this particular one was reported, at least I saw reported by Skylar Schuler of the Diz Insider, who corroborates some of these rumors, and it seems pretty plausible. So basically they're saying that they're going to reboot it with Karen Gillan in the being eyed as the female lead for this film, and she was probably most recognizable in the Jumanji movies, and I guess is she Nebula in the Avengers? Is that who she is?
Yes, she's Nebula
Yeah.
in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
Sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, that's what I mean. So she's got some ties to Disney already. She's a well-known, popular actress, and the other thing that makes this plausible is that there's a character on the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction called Red, who is obviously a redheaded woman. She was previously a woman being auctioned off, and then they've updated that to make her a pirate auctioneer. So, to keep it a little more politically correct with the times. So it would seem likely that perhaps that's the character they're going to base her character on, is this Red character from the Disney ride. So, I have mixed feelings on it. I really liked Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. I mean, he really is the franchise. But that said, we've had 5 movies of him, and it seems like, the last couple, they've all had their merits. I haven't hated any of them. I found them all entertaining, but it does seem like at times like they're just mailing it in, like they don't have any great ideas left, So maybe it is time for a fresh take. Although I will miss Johnny Depp, but with this Karen Gillan as a female lead, I mean, obviously I don't think she can pull off anything like what Johnny Depp did, nor would I want to see her try. But maybe there's a good story to be told. Yeah. So guys, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this could work, or do you think that they should just give this franchise a break and let it breathe, or do you think they should have stuck with Johnny Depp and kept going down that road? What are your thoughts, Christian? You wanna give us your thoughts on this first?
Well, I'm like you. I find the Pirates series to be pretty entertaining. It's probably got to the point with Dead Men Tell No Tales where it ran its course at that point. Although I have found that movie to be pretty entertaining as well, and it also had a really awesome ending that kind of put a little bow tie on the entire series, especially for Orlando Bloom and his character and everything. So and Keira Knightley. So it had a wonderful ending with them. And I don't know how much more you can say about, Johnny Depp's a weird dude, but he brought a ton of charisma to Jack Sparrow, and he basically created that character. I mean, he said he saw, and so did the producers, the Pirates as modern day rock stars. So that's why he kind of modeled his character off Mick Jagger. And, he had the whole like rock star thing kind of going on there, and he helped to create Jack Sparrow's look. But, Johnny Depp's kind of getting up there. Like, how much longer can we have like Jack Sparrow being like a geriatric guy still going on like the high seas and everything? It's going to get a little fucked up. So they got two options. The movies still make a decent amount of money. The last one didn't make as much as before, but you're looking at $600-700 million. So this is still a pretty good franchise. You either milk him, it's still money, right? I mean, look, you either milk him or you think about where you can possibly go in the future. And I know I'm going to hear, not you guys, but I know we're going to hear online arguments about, well, no, it's a girl. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. It's an entirely new character. It probably has nothing to do with him whatsoever. And who knows, he might even have a cameo for all we know. That we have no idea if that's what they're going to go. It probably makes sense. Again, they want to try to bring in a couple new fans. Disney's known for trying to milk these franchises. They want to make money. That's what they do. You know it's going to be a well-made film. It's going to look good. So all these movies have looked good. Jerry Bruckheimer is a beast with that stuff. The movie's going to look okay. Are they going to make something that makes everybody want to come out of the theaters? At this point, I just don't know. It's a franchise whose best days are probably behind them. But this is an interesting way, especially with someone who has a Marvel name now. When you're looking at the actress who played Nebula, maybe this is a good way to do it. It's possibly a good way to do it. So interesting news for a franchise that might need a little bit new life. Lupe?
All right. So if I was the producer, what I'll do is I'll say, let's take Johnny Depp, have Johnny Depp in this movie, and Karen Gillan, the actress as
thank
well.
You, Gillan. Jesus, thank you.
And then let's make it a transition story. So it could be something like she's his daughter. And we know it's possible.
Sure.
From who Jack Sparrow is and his adventures on the high seas. It's possible that he has a daughter somewhere.
Several.
Several. As a matter of fact, I would be surprised if it was just her. And
Savvy.
it could be a situation where you can have a fun story of father and daughter, going on an adventure, and in the end, Jack Sparrow either retires, or something like that. But basically, he hands the reins to her, and then you start a new franchise with her and some other characters. That's the first thing I would do. If you do that, you're going to avoid all the stuff about SJW and all that controversy that tends to come when you make these hard lefts. Because no matter what anyone says, let's not forget that it's Jack Sparrow that made this franchise into the behemoth that it was. That's just the way it is. And as I've said with these things, you run into troubles when you make those hard lefts with changing characters, whether it's the race, the identity, the sexual orientation, whatever it is. So if you're going to do it, you're going to want to do it with tact, being very smart, being very strategic. And if they did that, I'm telling you, people will buy into it and you'll be a huge success, and you have a female-led franchise. And then also they need to set their expectations right. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Times have changed. You can't expect anything that's not massive superhero stuff to make $1 billion. It can, but you can't expect. If you don't make $1 billion, if you make 500 million, 600, you should be happy. Really. Because the environment, the structure of the economics is just, it's a completely different time. So when I see film franchises being disappointed, made 500 million, we have to reboot. It's like you're living in La La Land. Setting $1 billion as the bar is just it's unrealistic. And it might be a case where when they walk into the studios and investor meetings and they're trying to get money, they're selling them this dream just to get the money. So let's just lie to them that's gonna make $1 billion, and then they'll give us the money, and then we'll go from there. But part of it also is that because superhero movies exist and investor money is chasing profits, if you come to an investor and say, if you invest in this movie, you're only going to get 1.2 return. But if you invest in a superhero movie, you're going to get twice your money or something like that. all the money's going to go to the superhero stuff, and so those are the issues that we talk about when we talk about how how superhero movies are affecting cinema in a negative way, because they're leading to all these kind of issues where other stories can't be told because they're not getting the investment, or they're having their expectations be so high that if it doesn't meet the standard, it's going to be rebooted, and then they have to do all these things and compromise the story to make it more in a particular way. So anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but if I was a producer, those are the two things that I think are going to be important for this to be a success. I do want to see it. I do want to see the franchise go on. I enjoyed the last one. Didn't think it was the greatest thing ever. Definitely didn't think it was bad at all, even though it got bad reviews. Yeah, and it got bad reviews, which is part of the issue that we're having these days. It's like critics are only reviewing certain things well. And when I say certain things, I mean Marvel movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
When it comes to blockbusters, it's very rare for any other blockbuster, apart from, it's either you're a Marvel movie or you're female-led or POC or LGBT. If you have those four, you're most likely going to have, but everything else, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
And we need to critics, they need to allow stories to be told. And so basically that's my take on it. I really hope that they're smart about it, because if they just make a hard left or just make it like, oh, it's going to be the new female, blah, 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 you're going to get the same old controversy again, and then it's going to get into fights in which, oh, guys, they're misogynists, and then they get even more upset, and then it's going to be a huge, fight, and we can't just enjoy a good story. So the creators, you have to be smart. Read the room and move with wisdom.
All right. So that brings us to our last topic, and this is one I think is pretty exciting. So Walt Disney Studios has found its next live-action remake of an animated film, and that is going to be Hercules. So I believe the first Hercules the animated Hercules was 1997 or so, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so it was towards the end of the animated period as we moved into sort of the rise of digital animation. So this is going to be a live action film. Apparently they've chosen Jeffrey Silver, who's been associated with The Lion King and Tron Legacy, one of my personal favorites, and Karen Gilchrist, who's been associated with Lion King and The Mandalorian. They're going to produce it. It's expected to be a theatrical release, not a Disney Plus original. And it's expected at least to feature songs from the original animated film, with some new ones also being added. So, right off the bat, I mean, that interests me. I'm excited to hear what they're going to do. Now, this article, again, this is from the Diz Insider as well, mentions that they've heard 3 names rumored to be attached for potential director, not confirmed by any means. And as far as they know, there's been no formal discussions at this point. First is Jon Favreau, who did the live-action remake of Jungle Book and Lion King, and is obviously in the good graces of Disney from his Marvel films as well. Secondly, you've got the Russo brothers, and there's a little more on them to come in a second. And thirdly, Gore Verbinski, who directed the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean films and also The Lone Ranger, which I've actually not seen The Lone Ranger, but I was thinking about going back and finally checking it out. Now, lastly, this article was later, or this scoop, I guess, was later confirmed by The Hollywood Reporter, that they confirmed that Hercules is going to be coming to the big screen. They added that Dave Callahan, who's I believe he's one of the writers for Wonder Woman 1984, and is also involved with Marvel Shang-Chi, is going to write the script, and the Russo brothers are going to produce, so not directing. So, we still don't know who the director is, but there's enough there to think that this, I think that this could turn out pretty well, and I'm excited about this, at least based on what we've heard so far. What do you guys think? What's your excitement level on this, or are you just tired of Disney live-action movies? What remakes, I should say. Lupe, why don't we start with you on this one? I think we put him to sleep again. Lupe, you.
No, he's just
Chris,
he's on
I'm
mute.
I'm here.
There he
I'm
is.
sorry. Now, to be sincere, if you say, "Oh, Lupe, what's your number one Disney cartoon, whatever?" It's actually Hercules.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's actually Hercules. Although, to be sincere, I just recently found out that there was like a bunch of like it's the least quote unquote true to Disney one because there was a bunch of like behind the scenes drama. But regardless of that, I loved it. Part of why I actually love it is because I love Clash of the Titans. Like I grew up watching Clash of the Titans, so anything with like Greek mythology, Hercules, the Greek pantheon, that's my shit.
Same
And
here.
that's
I
part of
really like
why,
this stuff.
yeah,
I
that's
like
part
it
of
too.
why
I like it
I
too.
really liked what Zack Snyder was doing in terms of his vision for who Wonder Woman was, being this like
Well,
mythological, yeah,
and tying
Greco-Roman.
the old gods in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I should be excited about this, but I don't know. I've gotten to the stage in which I would want something more serious. I would want some more epic, something more mythological. And I'm pretty sure that's not what we're gonna get. Um,
I think you're getting a
so
musical.
I,
But you know, that's
I
not all bad. It's not entirely without its merits.
that's just not for me. It's just not for me. And also I'm kind of a little bit upset or jaded by the fact that Hercules is becoming synonymous with Disney. Hercules does not belong to Disney. Does that make sense? When the public consciousness,
Yeah.
when they think, oh, Hercules, straight up, it's like Disney. And no, it's not. But the saddest truth about it is that I don't think that a Hercules movie could be made that would be successful, except if it's made by Disney.
Well, didn't they
That's
try making one with The Rock? I mean, I didn't even see that one, but it got panned
yeah,
so
I
bad I
did.
didn't even. And to be honest,
Yeah.
the trailers didn't look good either, right?
Because
So
he was
Yeah.
wearing a horrible wig. It was
yeah,
it was a joke. He just looked no, that one was not. That was not. No, no, please let's not. Let I think
Don't
I'm
even
gonna
bring that
cut
up.
that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
no.
to edit that out of this out of this.
Strike it. Strike it.
hey, it's relevant to the conversation. Keep it in.
But no, let's act like that never existed. Um, but yeah, I'm not really looking forward to it, to be sincere. Not that I think that the Roosters are bad storytellers. For example, they just produced Extraction, which I liked. Not the greatest thing ever, but I liked the action in it. I have a review of it on the channel. So they can produce something that's good, but I the type of Hercules that I would want would be like King Arthur Legend of the Sword, but a Hercules version, basically. That's basically what I would want. Something like
Yeah.
real serious, epic, mythological. And I think this is going to be like, family friendly, all inclusive, blah, blah, blah. And to me, when something appeals to everyone, it doesn't appeal to a specific type of person. And I like a specific vision. So yeah, that's where I stand on it.
Christian, what are your thoughts on this one?
I haven't you guys know this. I haven't really been into the live action Disney remakes, although I really liked Beauty and the Beast. I thought that was very good. I recently saw Aladdin and found that to be very middle of the road. People have been pushing me to see some of the other ones. I haven't watched them yet. They haven't been into it. Mulan was the one that I was like, holy shit, I want to see this movie.
I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, me too.
We all are, I think, right?
I think all three of us were looking forward to that. So
yeah, so am I.
So I mean, from that aspect, I'm not, like it's not like I'm super excited about it. I think that people sometimes look at, with the same thing that we talked about with TD earlier in the pod. That's what happens with the Russo brothers. They're like, oh, they make MCU crap, so I don't like them. They're actually really not bad. They're talented. They're not auteurs. That's fine. But look, they are good at what they do. And so there's a decent team here. It seems kind of cool. But like Lupe said, I think you got to go into it with the right mindset. That's my thing. I think we've seen, at least it looks like with whatever's coming out with Mulan, that could potentially be a little different. That didn't look like there's going to be any musical elements or anything like that in that movie, and there's no talking dragon. So, my guess is we're not going to go that serious with this movie, but they're not going to go as funny as the cartoon. So we probably have to expect some sort of family-friendly thing here. But you're not going to necessarily get this deep Greek mythological storytelling from it and stuff. It's going to be a bit Disney-fied, and of course that's what every single one of their cartoons were. They're all Disney-fied. They're fun. So, hey man, it's another one in their live action. I don't know if you want to call it their quiver. It's another arrow in their quiver. I just haven't been a fan of these live action movies. I'm sorry. I don't mean to shit on the Disney parade, Paul, because I think I know
you're not alone. I mean, well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say I'm in the minority because you look at the sentiment, and most people say they don't like the Disney live action movies, but they're all hitting $1 billion, right? So someone must like them.
They make money. And you know what? I should watch more of them because you've suggested some to me. And I've also had friends off the pod too who've just been like, bro, you really should be looking at this. I'm like, all right, I know I should watch them. I think it's just part of me is like, I'm old. So like, that's my childhood. And it's like, oh man, you're remaking like Lion King was such a classic. Classic. Go ahead.
We were talking about earlier. Well, sorry, sort of cut you off, Christian. Just further your point, like we were talking about earlier in the podcast, you get to relive these movies through the eyes of your kids. Yeah. And I've watched the animated ones with my daughter, and you know what? Some of them are they're all classics, but they show their age, and it's nice to see these things. Yeah, it's nice to see them modernized and brought to life. And one of the things I loved about comic book movies when I was young was you finally get to see these animated stories or these hand-drawn stories brought to life. And what I always wanted was, what would this look like if it was real, right? And that's why I love serious comic book movies that take themselves seriously and aren't campy jokes, because that's what I always wanted as a kid, was just somebody treat this material seriously and show me what this would look like if it was real. And that's all I wanted. And with these Disney live action ones, yeah, it's still Disney, but it brings it to life, it modernizes it, and the source material, it's generally consistent with the source material. Like if you like Beauty and the Beast, it's a musical, so I don't mind seeing this as a musical when you bring it to life. Same thing with Aladdin, right? If you liked the Aladdin cartoon and you like the Aladdin and you like the Aladdin stage show, well, then you're probably going to like the Aladdin live action film. It's just one more way to watch that story that you're that you like or love, depending on your interest level, right? So so this is one where I like the animated film. I know what I'm getting going in. What Lupe describes, I would absolutely love on a personal level. Like, give me a Zack Snyder Hercules, and I'm gonna love that. But to go see a movie with my family, if it's a movie where I'd watch the animated film, then yeah, I'd love to see the same thing in live action, updated, modernized live action. Sure, why not? Yeah, sorry. Now go on, Christian.
No, I don't really have a ton to add to it. I just think it's interesting. It's like Lupe said, I think there are a lot of people. Hercules is a weird cartoon. It's not one of the ones that I think people remember up there with The Little Mermaid and some of the others. But it's interesting when you talk to people, you'll mention Hercules and they'll go, oh yeah, you know what, bro, that was funny. They do one of those. So I think it's got a better memory with people than we think it does. So for one of their live action, totally makes sense. It's probably a little bit different than what they've done before. But you just got to know what it is when you're going into it. That's all. And it's probably going to be fun.
I think it gets a little bit of a negative stigma too, because it was part of sort of like the low point for Disney, right? Like they had a bunch of movies that and they're actually really great movies. Like Hercules is a good one. Atlantis was really good. Like I love Atlantis. That flopped as far like relative to other, like you don't hear anything about it. Yeah. And one of the ones that I really loved, and I'm pretty sure was a complete flop, was Treasure Planet. I love Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet is actually not bad.
That was a string of really good Disney movies that just did not get any love. Also, and
Atlantis, or the Lost City of Atlantis.
Atlantis, the Lost Empire.
Yeah, the Lost Empire is another one that people kind of like. Yeah,
exactly. Atlantis, Treasure Planet, this one. They were all sort of in that late '90s, right up until 2000 when digital took over, and it was sort of the death of the hand-drawn movie. But these are still very good movies that just didn't get the love that Disney used to get. And now when you look back at them, you're like, holy shit, why didn't I like that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I like that? Why didn't I go watch it then? Well, and I know why I didn't go watch it then, because in 1997, I was 21 years old in university, right? So I'm not going to go see animated Hercules, right? So now
I still did when I was in college. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, so it's it was just the wrong time, I guess, in life for me. But now going back at them, I'm thinking, you know what, this is really good, and especially watching it with my daughter, you get to be a kid again, right? So that there's a market for these things, and I think this one should be good if you're okay with what it's going to be.
Yeah, you just got to know what it is. That's all. And I think, and there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't. So I'm with you.
All right, so that's all I got for my Disney shilling. If anyone's stuck with us this long and made it through my entire trifecta of Disney shilling, leave a comment. Let us know, because that's impressive.
It really is. Well, I mean, the last thing I'll leave us with is an update on the Quibi app. I have good news, guys. All right, hold your breath. I have opened it.
Oh.
It's the first step, funny. Lupe. It's the first step.
Honest to God, since the last time we talked, I have not opened the app.
Yeah.
Just when I was making the show notes for this, I just remembered, a Quibi update would be nice. I haven't. And the reasons why are because, one, even when I'm out, I throttle down my internet use because I don't like being on the internet like so much, especially when I'm out with people, and we're at a time when we're not out with people. So I'm always home, and as I said, I have other screens, whether it's my laptop or it's my TV, that sort of thing. So, and I just haven't reached for it. So I'll probably this week try to give it a go and force myself to watch something which will make no sense whatsoever, because I'll be probably at home trying to watch it on a small screen with my big screen. Well, I'll try to give it a shot, but take what you will take from what I just told you. I have not opened it and felt the urge to at all. Not even one bit.
90-day free trial, and I can't even make myself sign up, which says something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Me too.
And you can, even on Twitter, on social media, like there's no buzz about any series. It's not like, oh my God, you guys, like I just watched this stuff on Quibi. It's like nothing. Zero.
Yep.
You know what? We might be missing something great. I just have there's too much. There's too many other things I want to watch first. I just don't have the time to even think about trying to seek something out, unless something really grabs my attention.
Yeah. And I mean, but even if we're missing someone will recommend it to us. Someone will be like, you'll hear one person somewhere, even if it's not one person. We got entertainment journalists. That's what they're there for, and they even get paid to review. It's nothing. It's nothing. Like
crickets. Yeah,
crickets. And that breaks my heart, because it's a very well made app. You can tell that they put a lot of money into it. There are a lot of stars on it. Like a lot of people have their hopes on this, but this is just, and that's what the streaming wars are going to be. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And when I say losers, I mean some investments and some hopes are going to crash and burn.
Casualties of war, man.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen. There's going to be some that hopes and dreams are going to die in this.
It's not going to be pretty. But
and you know what's going to happen? Once it goes bankrupt, we're going to find some show on there that we absolutely love and we support sooner.
Oh my God. I can't believe
we slept on this.
Yep. It's always the way.
Well, next week I'll give you guys an update on Quibi.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need to open it up if I have anything good to report or not. Hopefully you guys will have some stuff to say about Black Sails if you're able to get to it.
Yeah, I have 2 seasons of Ozark first, Lupe, but I will get to Black Sails after that.
But so that's our episode for the day. It's been a very beefy episode, very meaty. But yeah, it's been wonderful. You guys, let's say goodbye to our audience. Christian.
Definitely. Thanks again, guys. I know, like you said, it was a long night, but it was great. We had a lot of fun conversation. We're starting to pull out of this. You just got to stick it through a little bit longer, guys. So just social distance a little while longer. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We love you all. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at the same place. It's at chart6363.
And Paul.
Yep. Again, enjoyed this again, guys. It was a long one tonight, but great getting to talk to you again. Talk about some things that we enjoy. It's a nice break from the everyday. So Hope our listeners enjoyed it as well. Love to hear your comments. Reach out to us, leave us a comment on YouTube, or reach out to us on Twitter at The Film Exiles, or you can reach me at _Paul_P. And that's it for me for this week.
All right. And I have been yours truly, Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at Live Love Lupe. You can find me on Vero at Live Love Lupe as well. You can find us at The Film Exiles on Twitter. Please follow us, talk to us. We talk back. And you guys, stay safe out there. Quarantine, social distance, respect the recommendations by the experts. And we wish you the best. We'll see you very, very soon. Until then, stay exiled.